this for our last session, our last class on Nectar of Instruction. Jai, Shri Goswami ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. And yes, this will be our last session together, and today we'll be doing verses 10 and 11. We're going all the way into Radha Kund today. Quite exciting, quite sobering as well, because we're going to be discussing actually very elevated topics in Krishna consciousness. But it's all very nice. It's all good to talk about these things as well and find out about those mysteries of Krishna consciousness. But before we start, let's chant some prayers together. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Paran Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Rishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhya evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Shri Upadeshamrita ki Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai Anantakoti Vaishnavrinda ki Jai. So dear devotees, thank you once again for joining us for our last class of Nectar of Instruction. Yes, we're excited to complete this journey with all of you. But before we proceed, we would like to ask, does anybody remember what we did in our previous class? Yes, Ashikumani Mahaprabhu.
Don't remember the whole story, Prabhu, but you were recalling about how Chamakun got created and Radhakun got created, and then also I think we mentioned about Lord Chaitanya initiating the excavation of those places as well.
Yeah, Lord Chaitanya rediscovered Radhakund, and he's the reason why we know about this most holy of holy places. Yes, we did talk about that. Anything else? Anything else we remember? Yes, Mita Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
The essence of all advices.
Yes, very good. The essence of Upadesha Saram, the essence of all advice. And what's the essence of all advice?
Chanting and remembering Krishna all throughout the day, like 24 hours a day, all the time.
Yeah. Verse number 8. Yeah. Basically, I'll read the verse for everybody. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day in nicely chanting and remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes. thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Vraja, Goloka Vrindavan Dham, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. Yes, very nice, Mataji, the essence of all advice. Yes, Sachikumani, my Prabhu.
You also mentioned, Prabhu, a couple of different interpretations or stories about how the nectar of instruction came into being.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yes, about actually I forget now, but I remember them. I remember not having heard those before. Yeah, so that was interesting.
Yeah, that was news to me as well. That's why I thought of sharing it last week. It's very nice. Yeah, it was very nice. These two versions of that, or the pastime of how Upadeshamrita came to be. Anything else from anyone else? Oh, I think we're all good. Okay, well, good. So let's proceed to text number 10. But before that, let's chant the invocation with Srila Prabhupada. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the six Goswamis, namely Sri Rupa Goswami, Sri Sanatana Goswami, Sri Raghunath Bhatta Goswami, Sri Raghunath Dasa Goswami, Sri Jiva Goswami, and Sri Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who are very expert in scrutinizing and studying all the revealed scriptures with the aim of establishing eternal religious principles for the benefit of all human beings. Thus they are honored all over the three worlds, and they are worth taking shelter of because they are absorbed in the mood of the gopis and are engaged in the transcendental loving service of Radha and Krishna. Sad Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Here's today's verse, and it's a long verse, this one. Text number 10. Karmibhya parito hare priyataya vyaktim yayurgyaninas Ego jnana vimukta bhakti parama premaikanishthastatha Devyasta pashupala pankajajishash tabhyopi saradhika Krista tatvaryam tadiya sarasi tam nashrayet kakriti. In the Shastra, it is said that of all types of fruitive workers, he who is advanced in knowledge of the higher values of life is favored by the Supreme Lord Hari. Out of many such people who are advanced in knowledge, jnanis, one who is practically liberated by virtue of his knowledge may take to devotional service. He is superior to the others. However, one who has actually attained prema, pure love for Krishna, is superior to him. The gopis are exalted above all the advanced devotees because they are always totally dependent upon Sri Krishna, the transcendental cowherd boy. Among the gopis, Srimati Radharani is the most dear to Krishna. Her Kunda lake is as profoundly dear to Lord Krishna as this most beloved of the gopis. Who then will not reside at Radhakund, and in a spiritual body so charged with ecstatic devotional feelings, aprakrita bhava, render loving service in the divine to the divine couple Shri Shri Radha Govinda, to perform the Ashtakaliya Leela, the eternal eightfold daily pastimes. Indeed, those who execute devotional service on the banks of Radhakund are the most fortunate people in the universe. So, dear devotees, we've reached in this section of Upadeshamrita, and in relation to our devotional kripa here, we are still dealing with the stages of bhava and prema. If you remember from last week, these are the two very exalted stages of devotional service. And here's the interesting thing, dear devotees: prema is not the highest stage of Krishna consciousness. There's even stages higher than that, but we don't usually discuss it because those stages happen when you've got a spiritual body. This body will not be able to contain it. The ecstasies you experience beyond prema. So yeah, so bhava. So we have so far for our discussions during all these weeks, we have seen the progress from Shraddha to Nishtha, and then onto Raganuga Bhakti, where one is slowly being revealed what their eternal identity in relation to Krishna is. And now we've reached bhava and prema. And at bhava and prema, the devotee, they basically know who they are. They know what their rasa with Krishna is. How exciting, how nice. So basically here the devotee has achieved perfection, basically. He's achieved perfection. And here and these verses are describing somebody who has attained a particular kind of perfection. And that is that their rasa is in Madhurya rasa. The identity is that of being a maidservant of Srimati Radharani. That's what's been described here. And indeed, we understand from our acharyas that this perfection is the perfection for most of the followers of Mahaprabhu, but not all of them, of course. Mahaprabhu specifically came to give Madhura Rasa, as we were discussing last week. So here, as we saw last week, that Rupa Goswami is now taking us to the highest place.
This meeting is being recorded.
The highest goal of life, which is Goloka Vrindavan, to be serving Krishna in Goloka Vrindavan. And within Goloka Vrindavan, you have different gradations of places, and you have Radha Kund, which is the highest. So this verse is now describing another hierarchy. Last week we saw a hierarchy of holy places. And here we have a hierarchy of the different types of persons that are dear to Krishna. Different types of persons that are dear to Krishna. So let's start. So by having this hierarchy, it sheds more light on the glories of Radhakund. Because by this process of comparing, you're seeing how the different types of personalities differ from each other. How one is getting purer and purer compared to the person preceding it on this hierarchy, until you go all the way to reaching Srimati Radharani herself. So yes, we'll be discovering that in this verse and purport. Yes, Sachikumar, you might.
Prabhu, I'm not sure if it's just me, but there seems to be some kind of interference with the sound.
Oh, really? Is that the case?
I don't know what it is. It's like there's some kind of reverberation that goes with it.
Yeah, there is, yeah.
Oh, it's probably my laptop. Is it still there?
Yes, Prabhu, it's kind of accompanying your audio. I don't know what it is.
Oh no. I'm so sorry about that. Does that prevent you from hearing me properly, or is it?
It's a little distracting. I mean, we can hear you, but it's just there. I just wanted to address it. Sorry.
You know, my laptop is very old. I've been told to buy a new one, so I have to buy a new one. But not in time for today's class, then, unfortunately. I apologize for this. I'm so sorry. Because my laptop is making a noise, but I'm not too sure how to stop it. Yeah, I'm so sorry about that. Okay. So let's get into the verse. Purport. At the present moment, almost everyone is engaged in some kind of fruitive activity. Those who are desirous of attaining material profits by working are called karmis, or fruitive workers. So Prabhupada is talking about fruitive workers. Okay, so we have a chart as well for this. We're talking about the karmis and the karmis. And Prabhupada is talking about the karmis. The karmis are those who are working in this world to gain some material profit. So all living entities within this material world have come under the spell of Maya. This is described in the Vishnu Purana. Vishnu Shakti Parakopta Kshetra Vyakya Tatha Para Avidya Karma Samganya Tutiya Shaktir Ishyate. Sages have divided the energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead into three categories, namely the spiritual energy, marginal energy, and material energy. The material energy is considered to be the third class energy, Tritiya Shakti. Those living beings within the jurisdiction of the material energy sometimes engage themselves like dogs and hogs in working very hard simply for sense gratification. Yes, Purnakrishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, just a question. So on as you started off from verse 8, in terms of Atma Nivandam, so in terms of complete surrender,
Yeah.
if you're not completely surrendered, then you're going to come back on into the material world. Is that the case? Or?
Yeah, basically it. You talk about text number 8, right? Text number 8.
Yeah. So if we don't completely, if we have a tingling of, I'd like to be an accountant. I enjoy doing that. Is that even if I don't want the fruits, that's still being attracted to materialistic activity, right?
Yeah, because Atma Nivedana means like you're solely existing for the Lord's pleasure. Completely.
That's what I thought.
But if we have any other
Yeah.
little bit of desire for something else, then you come back to fulfill that because that was your desire. Yeah. Let's continue. However, in this life,
Sound isn't great, though.
oh, okay. Is it okay now?
Yeah, that's a bit better. Sorry, Prabhu. Thanks.
However, in this life, or after executing pious activities in the next life, some karmis become strongly attracted to performing various kinds of sacrifices mentioned in the Vedas. Thus, on the strength of their pious merit, they are elevated to heavenly planets. Actually, those who perform sacrifices strictly according to Vedic injunctions are elevated to the moon and planets above the moon. As mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 9.21, Shine Punya Martya Lokam Nishanti. After exhausting the results of their so-called pious activities, they again return to the earth, which is called Martya Loka, the place of death. Although such persons may be elevated to the heavenly planets by their pious activities, and although they may enjoy life there for many thousands of years, they nonetheless must return to this planet when the results of their pious activities are exhausted. This is the position of all karmis, including those who act piously and those who act impiously. On this planet, we find many businessmen, politicians, and others who are simply interested in material happiness. They attempt to earn money by all means, not considering whether such means are pious or impious. Such people are called karmis or gross materialists. Among the karmis are some vikarmis, people who act without the guidance of Vedic knowledge. Those who act on the basis of Vedic knowledge perform sacrifices for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu and to receive benedictions from him. In this way, they are elevated to higher planetary systems. Such karmis are superior to the vikarmis, for they are faithful to the directions of the Vedas and are certainly dear to Krishna. So basically, the karmis, they're trying to enjoy the material world, but they're doing so according to the Vedic system. So basically, you perform different sacrifices expecting a material result that you will enjoy. But I mean, it's all materialistic, but because they're trying to do it in the right way by acknowledging Krishna's supremacy or the acceptance of a high authority in the universe. So therefore, they are better than the vikarmis who kind of neglect the Vedic literature, the Vedic system. They just want to enjoy life the way they want to. They just completely neglect any form of Vedic guidance. Among the karmis are some vikarmis, people who act without the guidance of Vedic knowledge. Those who act on the basis of Vedic knowledge perform sacrifices for the satisfaction of Lord Vishnu and to receive benedictions from him. In this way, they are elevated to higher planetary systems. Such karmis are superior to the Vikarmis, for they are faithful to the directions of the Vedas and are certainly dear to Krishna. In the Bhagavad Gita 4.11, Krishna says, Yayathamam prapandante tam sateva brajamiham. In whatever way one surrenders unto me, I reward him accordingly. So a karmi who is trying to enjoy material life by following the Vedic system is still, because they're approaching Krishna in some way, Krishna will reciprocate accordingly. Okay, you want material facility, material happiness? Okay, I'll give that to you. Krishna reciprocates according to one's surrender. So Prabhupada continues, Krishna is so kind that he fulfills the desires of the karmis and jnanis, not to speak of the bhaktas. Although the karmis are sometimes elevated to higher planetary systems, as long as they remain attached to fruitive activities, they must accept new material bodies after death. So even though being a karmi is better than being a vikarmi, still you remain stuck in the material world, because you're attached to enjoying the fruits of your activities, or attached to performing work, which you can performing work that will give you results that you can enjoy. If one acts piously, he can attain a new body among the demigods in the higher planetary systems, or he may attain some other position in which he can enjoy a higher standard of material happiness. On the other hand, those who are engaged in impious activities are degraded and take birth as animals, trees, and plants. Thus, those fruitive actors who do not care for the Vedic directions, vikarmis, are not appreciated by learned saintly persons. As stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Idam pramata kurate vikarma yat indriya pritiya prinoti sadhu manye yata atmanoyam asanapi kleshada asa deha. Materialists who work hard like dogs and hogs simply for sense gratification are actually mad. They simply perform all kinds of abominable activities simply for sense gratification. Materialistic activities are not at all worthy of an intelligent man, for as a result of such activities, one gets a material body which is full of misery. So in this material world, we have to work really hard. The karmis and vikarmis are working really hard. And here's something that Srila Prabhupada says in the 7th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. He says that material life is called pavarga. It's from the 7th canto, chapter 13, verse 25 in the purport. What does pavarga mean? Pavarga is made up of two words. One is pa and one is varga. Pavarga. So pavarga is actually referring to something linguistic. In Sanskrit, it's referring to a series of letters in Sanskrit linguistics. So you have the P series. It's described to be the pa series, the sounds. In Sanskrit and Hindi, etc., the letters actually sounds. It's like pa, bha, ma. So you have the pa series, which is basically the labial series of consonants. So what does labial mean? It basically means those sounds, those consonants that require the partial or complete closure of the lips. So that would be pa, fa, pa, ma, pa. So those consonants. So pa varga is referring to those consonants in the Sanskrit language. And all of those consonants are referring to or describing a particular quality of the material world. That's why Prabhupada is saying the material world is called pavarga. So let's look into how the material world is described. So the first consonant is pa, which refers to parishram, which means in the material world we have to work really hard. And Srila Prabhupada is mentioning this here, that the karmis have to work really hard like dogs and hogs, simply for sense gratification. And he says that that's actually madness, to work really hard. Then you have the consonant fa, which is referring to fena, or foam from the mouth. So you work really hard, that there's foam forming in the mouth. Apparently, if I'm not mistaken, that's how camels are. Once they work really hard, they start foaming in the mouth. So Prabhupada would often say sometimes, working really hard in the world like dogs and hogs and camels and asses. You know, this way of description Prabhupada would often use. You know. Then you have Bha, which refers to Vyar Katha, disappointment. In this material world, we work very hard to the point we're foaming in the mouth, yet it does not give us the result we expect, that we want, and therefore we end up in disappointment. The next consonant is Ha, which refers to Bhaya. We are fearful. We're fearful that if I do not get what I'm wanting, then what am I going to do? You know, then we're fearful of death. We're fearful of not feeling secure. We're fearful of my loss of identity if I move from one place to the other. I'm fearful for my future. I'm fearful for the other people in my life. So the material world is full of fear. In fact, I was hearing a description that even Lord Brahma, he gets fearful sometimes. You know, sometimes that Lord Brahma, there's a partial universal dissolution. The entire universe doesn't get destroyed, but all the planets below Lord Brahma's planet gets destroyed, and everything gets created again. So he's way up there and he's watching, and he's looking at all of that, and he's describing Bhagavatam. He temporarily becomes fearful, although he's the most intelligent person in this material universe. Yes, Purnakishore.
Just a slight philosophical thought. If you have no interest anymore in sense gratification, does that mean you're not interested? You're not afraid of death?
If you're not interested in sense gratification.
Yeah, if you have you've got to the point where it's utterly banal and boring, and you know you're getting some ruchi, you're getting some taste on bhakti. So like there is no what people are fearful is not necessarily death, but the end of the sense gratification, right? I think that's what they're really attached to. They're kind of that coming to an end, and that's what makes it so difficult for them to surrender, because they want to like, oh, what if I can just do a bit more? What if I live a bit longer? Or what if I can do a little bit of bhakti, but carrying enjoying my senses and with the material? It's that just reluctance because of preconditioning over millions of births to just drop to the other side, where you go, you know what, sense gratification, I no longer have it. It's so temporary. It's so, because these verses, what you're reading out, made me think of that, because Mitra Loka and place of death and time-bound enjoyment, whereas obviously bhakti gives you untime-bound enjoyment. You must eventually just sort of go, oh, you know what, I'm not afraid anymore because I'm not attached to this anymore. I don't care for this. You know, is that the process that we're trying to get through in our sadhana?
Yeah,
we're trying to...
yeah, that's basically like what we're trying to overcome. Yeah, if you really understood that sense gratification, there's no point to it. You know, then what do we have to fear about? I guess that would describe like the position of the jnani. He's given up attachment to this material world, understanding that he's a spiritual being. But here's the thing, though: you've given up attachment to this material world, and therefore, theoretically speaking, you won't be fearful anymore. But then, what are you holding on to now? You know, if you're not attached to this world, then what are you attached to now? So there's
I find in this process that there's a point of like also fear of nihilism. Well, what am I supposed to do? Then you kind of go past that to a bit of excitement, where you go, hey, I was supposed to be a part of Krishna, right? So I was supposed to be, wow, I'm supposed to be doing service all the time. This is fantastic. So it's kind of this kind of three-phase thing where, oh, I'm slightly attached to sense gratification. Okay, I realize that's meaningless, and stop that. Oh god, that feels a bit depressing. Now what am I going to do? I'm not getting sensory gratification. But then you're like liberated in the sense that, I don't mean that sort of literally. I mean sort of, you kind of, wow, it's exciting. I've spent my whole life doing Krishna service. This is incredible. Or serving other devotees. It's like, it's not just meaningless. It's like I've suddenly got positive eternal action. You know, because like the standard set by that verse, you start verse 8, 24 hours a day. I mean, I'm just thinking, how do we get to that standard? You've got to go through this process of like, that is my gratification, or that's my joy.
yeah.
So you can't sort of, it's like, I can't really go to the gym and lift weights for 24 hours unless I really, really enjoy it. You could do it for an hour or two.
Yeah.
Like people do bhakti for an hour or two. They go to the temple for an hour, hear a class, or go for arti. But how do you turn that into a constant thing like that other verse wants you to do? Well, you're only going to do that if that becomes you. You can't do it. There's no other way to do it. I don't think.
Yeah,
You've got.
there's very nice reflections you have here.
Yeah. But it's very useful. Very Krishna. It's very useful. Thank you, Prabhu.
So we've done pa, fa, ba, bha, and then there's ma, which is mrityu, or death. So that's basically a summary of the material world. We work very hard to the point of foam from the mouth, and then we're disappointed, and then we're fearful. Ultimately, we're fearful of death. Death will mean the end of my identity in this life. I'm going to be separated from all of my objects of sense gratification. Then what? We're very fearful like that. So the purpose of human life, Prabhupada says, is to get out of the threefold miserable conditions which are concomitant with material existence. Unfortunately, fruitive workers are mad to earn money and acquire temporal material comforts by all means. Therefore, they risk being degraded to lower species of life. Materialists foolishly make many plans to become happy in this material world. They do not stop to consider that they will live only for a certain number of years, out of which they must spend a major portion acquiring money for sense gratification. Ultimately, such activities end in death. The ma that represents mrityu, death. There's a story. There's a story where Yudhishthira Maharaj had to answer the questions of a yaksha to save the life of one of his brothers. And the yaksha asked him many questions, and one of the questions he asked was, "What is the most amazing thing, most wonderful thing that you've seen in the world?" And King Yudhishthira says, "The most amazing thing that I've seen is that although people are seeing death all around them, they still think that they're not going to die." Isn't that true? We live life as though like we're not going to die until we're faced with the fact that we will, which is like when we're faced with the situation. But although we're surrounded by death, actually, we do not realize that death will come upon us as well. So materialists do not consider that after giving up the body, they may become embodied as lower animals, plants, or trees. Thus, all their activities simply defeat the purpose of life. Not only are they born ignorant, but they act on the platform of ignorance, thinking that they're getting material benefits in the shape of skyscrapers, buildings, big cars, honorable positions, and so on. The materialists do not know that in the next life they will be degraded, and that all the activities simply serve as parabhava, their defeat. This is the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam 5.5.5. Parabhava stavad abodha jata. So really, being a karmi and vikarmi, really, at the end of the day, what is the point? You're working really hard for what? Are you getting any benefit? Even though the karmi is a bit better, you're doing things in a religious way, but no, what is the point at the end of the day? So really, not very high. It's not very high. So now, Prabhupada is going to talk about, he's going to go further up. So you have the vikarmis, karmis, and now he will move on to the jnanis. Therefore, we should not be stuck in the material conditions of material conception of life, as Prabhupada says. One should therefore be eager to understand the science of the soul Atma Tattva. And as one comes to the platform of Atma Tattva, by which one understands that the soul and not the body is oneself, one remains on the platform of ignorance. Out of thousands and even millions of ignorant people who are wasting their time simply gratifying their senses, one may come to the platform of knowledge and understand higher values of life. Such a person is called a jnani. The jnani knows that fruitive activities will bind him to material existence and cause him to transmigrate from one kind of body to another, as indicated in Srimad Bhagavatam by the term Sharira Bandha, bound to bodily existence. As long as one maintains any conceptual sense of enjoyment, his mind will be absorbed in karma, fruitive activity, and this will oblige him to transmigrate from one body to another. Thus a jnani is considered superior to a karmi because he at least refrains from blind activities of sense enjoyment. The jnani knows he's the soul, so I'm not the body, so why just focus on the needs of the body? This is the verdict of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. However, although a jnani may be liberated from the ignorance of the karmis, unless he comes to the platform of bhakti, devotional service, he is still considered to be in avidya, ignorance. Although one may be accepted as a jnani or one advanced in knowledge, his knowledge is considered impure because he has no information of devotional service and thus neglects the direct worship of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of God. That connects to what Īśopaniṣad was describing earlier. It's like, yes, the jnani does not find such gratification futile. There's no point. They fix an Atma Tattva. But then, where do you go to? What do you hold on to? And as devotees, we know if you go through that stage of being detached, but we know being detached is not enough. You have to hold on to positive attachment, transcendental attachment. So Prabhupada says here, unless the jnani does not worship Krishna's lotus feet, then his knowledge is considered impure. In fact, there's a verse from Bhagavatam, 10th canto. What's the verse? No, that's not the verse. Yeah, that verse is describing that some people may think that they're liberated by dint of their knowledge, but because they have not taken shelter of Krishna's lotus feet, they fall down back into the material world. So therefore, for a jnani who is not taking shelter of bhakti, is like not so good still. Yes, Īśopaniṣad.
Yeah, was it Sukadev Goswami that although he was liberated by birth, didn't until he came to bhakti didn't get that next level, and it was explain it back to was it no I can't remember in Canto 1 of Bhagavatam. I can't remember which brain's not working today. But I mean, it's like when Vyasa's not happy because he does all the Vedic stuff and he's not happy with it inside himself, and then Narada comes along and says, "Well, hang on, you've missed the whole point of it. Bhakti is the whole point of knowledge. All this knowledge of ritual is to get the love of God. Otherwise, it's meaningless." Anyway, I can't remember. Yeah, I think it was Sukadev Goswami.
Yeah, Sukadev Goswami, he was liberated when he was still in the womb. He was a Brahmavadi. He was fixed in Brahman realization. So therefore, but he wasn't technically like a devotee yet. But once because he was pure already, because he was pure, once he heard the descriptions of Krishna's pastimes, his beauty, specifically his beauty and qualities, he became so attractive. And he became devotee number one.
So that means that I mean, if you're a jnani, it does matter which mode of nature you're in. If you're in a mode of goodness, you've got a greater chance of getting to bhakti than the knowledge with passion or knowledge for the sake of I'm going to learn lots of scripture because I just want to feel good about my ego. That's not going to be much harder for you to go from mode of passion to that's mode of passion, it's false ego to get to bhakti from there.
I think that the jnani who takes to devotional service, like when we take the example of Sukadev Goswami, even the four Kumaras, for example, they are like very like advanced jnanis. You say like they're like the topmost jnanis. So at that point they're not doing it out of being spurred on by the mode of passion. They're basically fixed in goodness, very much in goodness. Yeah. And therefore, because they're very exalted jnanis, once they come in touch with Krishna, it's like you throw fire into the fire onto like dry wood, it just catch on fire. But that would be like somebody, a jnani who's just trying to study and out of pride and like very studying so many things. That would just be a lower kind of jnani.
Okay. Yeah.
So the jnani will be considered impure still until he takes to bhakti. The Prabhupada continues, when the jnani takes to devotional service, he rapidly becomes superior to an ordinary jnani. Such an advanced person is described as jnana vimukta bhakti param. Wow. Jnana vimukta bhakti param. How a jnani takes to devotional service is mentioned in Bhagavad Gita 7.19, where Krishna says, Bahunam janmanam ante jnanavan mam prapadyate Vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sudurlabha. After many births and deaths, he who is actually in knowledge surrenders unto me, knowing me to be the cause of all causes and all that is. Such a great soul is very rare. Actually, a person is wise when he surrenders unto the lotus feet of Krishna. But such a Mahatma, great soul, is very rare. So yes, so this is the Jnanis. So the best Jnani basically is the Jnani who takes to Bhakti. The Jnani who takes to Bhakti. So now Prabhupada now takes us to another category of people who are on the spiritual path. So now from the Jnanis we go to the Bhaktas. So if a Jnani who takes a devotional service is the best Jnani, what to speak of those who are actually devotees, or who have perfected the process of devotional service. So Prabhupada talks about them here. After taking to devotional service under the regulative principles, as Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, regulative principles, a person may come to the platform of spontaneous love of Godhead, following in the footsteps of great devotees like Narada and Sanaka and Sanatana. The Supreme Personality of Godhead then recognizes him to be superior. Devotees who have developed love of Godhead are certainly in an exalted position. So what type of devotees are we talking about here? Definitely these are devotees who have love for Krishna, they've attained love for Krishna. But they are a specific category of perfected devotees. So let's have a look at them. So we have this term Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, right? We were talking about that earlier on. Right now we're practicing Vaidhi Sadhana. Chaitanya Charitamrita describes that if one practices Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, the goal of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, it will take us, when one attains perfection in Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti, one will attain the Vaikuntha planets. One achieves Vaikuntha. So dear devotees, you may be wondering now, like, well, wait a minute, we're performing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Are we going for Vaikuntha? Is that our goal? If it was our goal, then why is Rupa Goswami talking about Radhakund and Govardhan, etc., right? So what we also performing Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti. Oh, wait a minute, devotees, please don't worry. There is something else that we should know about. So there is one type of Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti that takes us to Vaikuntha, where the Lord is worshipped with great awe and reverence. But the Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti that Mahaprabhu and our Acharyas, Rupa Goswami, talks about, that Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti will lead us to the practice of Ragadranga Sadhana Bhakti, the practice of spontaneous devotional service that we were talking about last week. And with that being practiced, that would take us all the way to Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan and Vrajadhaman. That's the difference. So here in this paragraph, Prabhupada is talking about those devotees who had performed Vaidhi Sadhana Bhakti and attained Vaikuntha. And they've achieved love of God, but their love is of the nature of what they have in Vaikuntha. So you have here Narada Muni, Sanaka and Sanatana. So they are what we call Vaidhi Siddhas. Siddhas means perfected beings. So Vaidhi means the rules and regulations. So Vaidhi can perfect it by practicing the rules and regulations. So this is the type of devotees that are higher than the Jnanis who took to devotional service. They have achieved perfection in practicing Vaidhi Sadhana. But Prabhupada continues in this paragraph. Of all these devotees, the gopis are recognized as superior because they do not know anything other than satisfying Krishna. So it's described that the devotees in Vaikuntha, they are pure devotees. But in one sense, they are motivated. Not motivated in the sense that, in the way that the karmis or the jnanis are. They are selfishly motivated. The way the Vaidhi bhaktas, like the devotees in Vaikuntha, the way they are motivated, their motivation is basically, I'm serving the God because He is God. You may be wondering, like, well, wait a minute, is that a good thing? Yes, the devotee is a good thing, but in the realm of transcendence, there's like a certain difference between the mood of Vaikuntha and Vrindavan. So because of that difference, the nature of the love that they have in Vaikuntha is constantly to be motivated because they're worshipping the Lord because He's the Lord. Whereas when you reach Goloka Vrindavan, the more intimate parts, the more confidential parts of the spiritual sky, they only love Krishna for the sake of loving Krishna. See, so therefore it's not motivated. They're simply attracted by his personality, his beauty, and they just want to serve him to please him, not because he's God. See, we see in Vrindavan, for example, oh, he's just one of the boys in the village, but he's very wonderful, therefore we love him. And even if somebody comes and says, Krishna is God, they're like, oh really? No, I can't be. He can't be God. So among those residents of Vrindavan, then you have the gopis, who are, all of them are very special. Their love is their selfless love. The desire to satisfy Krishna runs very deep, it goes really, really deep for them. And as it's mentioned here by Prabhupada and in this chart, they expect no return from Krishna. Yes, Purna.
So we know from Brihad Bhagavatam that real purity comes from like a simplicity of heart, like a lack of reliance on the mind. So the opulence is really for speculators, right? If you think about logically, the concept of because you have to contemplate that opulence. Whereas I think if you're beyond this material tendency to go, I need to understand. Like Brahma, he had to try and rationalize why Krishna was in two different places, or the cowherd boys were in two different places. But I'm just thinking out loud. So it's the profundity, the profound nature of this simpleness. That's the amazing benediction that they have. So they don't need to go to something material to kind of go, oh, I have to put this in some box for myself, therefore diminish it in some way. No, it's just give. It's like sort of like teenage romance, I guess. Where there isn't this kind of, it just didn't move with the pulse of it. Whereas for us, it's like, well, do we have to share? Do we have to share something? Well, let's think about what it is then that we need to share or give to. They don't have those restrictions. That's why they were so annoyed that their eyelids were blinking because they couldn't see Krishna. This is really useful. Yeah, it's really useful. Trying to work out how to explain it.
I like how you said that, Prabhu, the simplicity of heart. Yeah. There's no, with the residents of Vrindavan, there's no complexity, They go to, I see Krishna many years later after he left Vrindavan, and they go to Kurukshetra, he's still like very royal looking, very grand, and they're like, no, you should come back to Vrindavan. We don't want to see you like this. And
it's something that really struck, because I've got a very big ego, so I really have to understand everything. I have to learn it, memorize it. Oh, I need to know like this counter of this or whatever, and that really kind of over time we realize that's although eventually you are getting through it, getting over your ego, but it's really slowing down your process of getting to love, because you still want to be a controller. Like that's your material condition. You want to be a controller. That's what Jnaniism is. It's kind of like, I've got to box it in some box, and then wow, Krishna does this. He lifts up Govinda Hill and kind of wow, isn't he? I've got to, because I haven't, my ego's too big. I can't traverse that yet.
It's amazing, isn't it? Like the topmost position in the spiritual sky, the topmost transcendental position, is actually to be a very simple love of God. Isn't that amazing? But in this world, we need something complex, and that's supposed to be the greatest position. But actually, the spiritual world is the opposite. I had Madhavananda Prabhu describing this once, how, Putana, the demon Putana came to kill baby Krishna. And when the demon Putana came, all the Vrajavasis who were there, and all the Vrajavasis are the most exalted transcendentalists. They are the topmost personalities in the entire cosmos. And Putana is coming in, a great demon, and you think, oh, this must be Lakshmi, oh, how wonderful. So they don't know this is a demon, so you may be thinking, how can that be perfection, right? But perfection actually means to have that simple love for the Lord. And because the Lord would always protect them anyway, so the Lord just disposed of the demon back when she was gone, So that's...
I think it was a really interesting lecture from Kadamba Kanana a few years before he left his body. And he was giving us a really detailed lecture. There was a lot of questions, I think, going on. It was quite intense, academically intense. I think he went on some side topic and he went, yeah, and don't forget about the guy who's just been coming in, or the lady that's been coming in, just been cleaning the spoons in the kitchen for 40 years. While we're speculating, she's just gone back to Godhead. While we're here like discussing all these things, she's already sorted herself out because she's just coming in and doing her service every day. She's not really interested in all this highfalutin stuff, right? But the moment she gets up, it's just like, where's my service? Where's my service? And I wish I could be a bit like that, but
Yeah,
I'm too proud. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Prabhu. That was really nice. That's really nice reflection and meditation on this. Yeah, wow. That makes us think as well as devotees, as we're practicing now as well, right? That we try to analyze things and judge. So we talked about judging devotees in the last few weeks and how we shouldn't avoid that. We really want to try and understand things like why this happened, that happened, and this should happen to this person. Why this happening? Why this happening to me? But really, is it even necessary when it comes to the practice of bhakti, right? Wow, thank you. That's the highlight of my class today, Prabhu. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's go back to the gopis of Vrindavan. Yes, so Prabhupada says, to the gopis of Vrindavan expect no return from Krishna. Indeed, sometimes Krishna puts them into extreme suffering by separating himself from them. Nonetheless, they cannot forget Krishna. So you see this picture here, the devotees, of Krishna in the center and all the gopis around him. This is a scene from the Srimad Bhagavatam when Krishna disappeared from the rasa dance. And all the gopis were literally drowning in pools of separation and really suffering. And eventually Krishna appeared again after a long dramatic thing. Krishna appeared again, as I described that he appeared like an actor appearing on stage, very beautiful and very handsome looking. And when he appeared again, the gopis were not so impressed by what he just did. But first of all, what they did, they took their veils, they took their horni, the dupatta, they took it and all of them put it on the ground and made a beautiful seat for Krishna to sit on. So they invited Krishna to come and sit on this throne, this seat of veils. You can see in the picture here. And they started questioning him. It's what were your motivations there? Why did you do that? Disappear from us like that? And then Krishna gives a whole explanation to them about why he did this. But there's one verse that he speaks in glorification of them. He says, "Naparayaham niravadya samnijam." He says, I cannot repay you, naparayaham. I can't repay you because you are the ones who are completely free from deceit. Completely free from deceit. What does it mean to be free from deceit? It means you're just being yourself, completely yourself, and not oh Krishna, I love you, but I want something from you. I just read something from His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj, and he was saying that Prabhupada had told them that it's not as if Krishna, when he came back from the pasturing grounds in the evening, the gopis went to Krishna and say, Krishna, what's in your pocket for me? Krishna, what do you got for me? They didn't do that. They just selflessly served Krishna. So when completely, utterly selflessly serving Krishna, not being worried about their own reputation, about what's good for them, how they look, or anything, nothing. It's all for Krishna's pleasure. They're living for Krishna's pleasure. If Krishna calls, they go. So I'll just read that verse, the full verse, where Krishna is saying this to them. He says, I'm not able to repay my debt to you, my debt for your spotless service, even within a lifetime of Brahma. Your connection with me is beyond reproach. You have worshipped me, cutting off all domestic ties which are difficult to break. Therefore, please let your own glorious deeds be your compensation. Give some context to what Prabhupada is saying here. Just imagine, Krishna is telling his devotees, Krishna is unlimited. He's telling them, I cannot repay you for your spotless service. Just imagine how great these devotees are. Incredibly great. So now Prabhupada is describing in this paragraph, he's describing something interesting. He's describing the gopis in light of their love in separation from Krishna. This is quite interesting. He says, Prabhupada talks about this. When Krishna left Vrindavan for Mathura, the gopis became most dejected and spent the rest of their lives simply crying in separation from Krishna. So you see here in our map, So Krishna and Balaram are there in Nandagram, and they went all the way to Mathura. And you know, when Krishna was in Nandagram, and while they were on their way to Mathura, they went to different points, there were different villages that they went through along the way. And it's described that as they were going on their way to Mathura, like depending on what was happening to the devotees in that place, or what was going on in that place, these villages were formed according to the name. That anyway, I'm not describing this very well. I'll just go through it and you'll understand what I'm trying to say. So basically, you find Krishna is in Nandagram, and as you all know, Akrura, he came to on the orders of Kamsa, came to pick Krishna and Balarama. And Mother Yashoda did not want Krishna to leave. So you know what she tried to do? She tried to hide him behind the curtain. And it's only Nanda Maharaj had to intervene and say, no, that's okay, let him go. We will go with Krishna and Balaram. Don't worry, we will go, let Krishna go. So like that, Nanda Maharaj was able to convince her. So just outside Nandagram is this, at the entrance of Nandagram is this place called Bijvari. And this is where Akrura's chariot was parked, and everybody was gathered there, and all the gopis also came there. You know, they had heard, somehow they got to know that Krishna is going, so they all came early in the morning. And in Brihad Bhagavatamrita, there's a beautiful narration of it, of what happens. And that place, as the chariot began to move, it described all the gopis just fell in front of that chariot, feeling separation from Krishna. They couldn't bear it, just fell in front. They fell in front of the chariot, around the chariot, you know, like lightning bolts, like a flash of lightning falling onto the ground. So the Sanskrit for lightning bolt is Bijvari. So that place is now called Bijvari. So as the chariot kept moving on, the gopis were calling out to Krishna. They were just calling out to Krishna without any shyness, you know, Govinda, Damodara, Madhava, you know. And as you can see in this picture, it's quite a pitiful situation for them. They do not want Krishna to go. They do not want Krishna to go because he was their very life. He is their very life. Prabhupada describes in Krishna book, he says that the residents of Vrindavan gave everything to Krishna. Their life, their house, their family members, their possessions, their breath, everything was for Krishna's pleasure. Now Krishna's going, how can they live without Krishna? So as the chariot, Akrura is trying to drive the chariot without crushing anybody. And as the chariot is moving along the road, the gopis are following the chariot, trying to stop Krishna from going. It's described some gopis are trying to climb onto the chariot. And at some point along the road, Krishna told the gopis, don't worry, I will quickly come back. Don't worry, I will quickly come back. And the Sanskrit for quickly is Shigra. So therefore, this place along the road became known as Siha ground, quickly, which means quickly. So Krishna told them, I will come back very quickly. But still Krishna and Balaram kept going on in the chariot, and the gopis were not letting go. They were not letting go. And Krishna said, don't worry, I will come back the day after tomorrow. And that's what Paraso means. It means the day after tomorrow, I will be there. So don't worry. So in that way, all the gopis followed Krishna and Balaram's chariot. They followed until they reached this place here called Paraso. They reached onto the main road that leads all the way to Mathura. And the gopis stopped there, and Krishna and Balaram went on all the way down to Akrura Ghat with the Jamuna. But even though the gopis stopped following the chariot, it's amazing. They kept sending letters to Krishna along the way. How they were doing that is described that Madhumangal was the messenger between the gopis and Krishna. So somehow Madhumangal, being given his plump self, he was able to run back and forth between the gopis and Krishna and Balaram as they were moving on closer and closer to Mathura. And they reached Akrura Ghat. And as they stopped at Akrura Ghat, Krishna sent them one last letter to the gopis, and that letter said, we are never apart. Separation between us is but a dream. And thus Krishna left for Mathura, and is described the gopis of Vrindavan became transcendently mad. They were exhibiting the highest levels of ecstatic love of Godhead, to the point that Krishna heard about it in Mathura, and he had to send Uddhava to pacify it. And Uddhava obviously was completely dumbstruck at seeing the waves of love of the gopis. The gopis were being tossed about in waves after wave after wave of love of Godhead that he has never seen before. So when Uddhava saw this amazing mood of devotion that the gopis had, he described saying this, he extended his stay there for like a good 3 months, if I'm not mistaken. Just because he wanted to be around these exalted devotees. And Uddhava saw this particular mood in the gopis, that if our distress gives Krishna the greatest happiness, then that distress is our greatest happiness. That's completely selfless love. Krishna, you may do whatever you want with me, it doesn't matter. If this gives you happiness, then that gives me happiness. A bit hard to relate to, isn't it? A bit hard, because we're not on that level. But we can worship this mood. We practice devotional service and we're like, where is the happiness? I can't find the happiness. Krishna, give me that happiness. We are motivated by our happiness still. But we know about selfless devotion, so what we can do when we hear about this, we can be in awe of it and worship it and glorify it and offer obeisances to this kind of love. So Uddhava was in that mood as well. He was like, wow, I've never seen devotion like that before. So therefore Uddhava prays. This famous prayer is there in Srimad Bhagavatam. He says, please let me become grass or a creeper in Vrindavan, so that the gopis when the gopis walk past, the dust from their feet can fall on my head. He also prays that I repeatedly offer my respects to the dust of the feet of the women of Nanda Maharaj's cowherd village. When these gopis loudly chant the glories of Sri Krishna, the vibration purifies all the 3 worlds. So Prabhupada here in this purport is very much elaborating on this mood of separation that the gopis have. This mood of separation that the gopis have. It is called Vipralamba Seva. So actually, on the spiritual platform, when a devotee is feeling separation from Krishna, that is actually a form of being with Krishna. In fact, Prabhupada and our acharyas describe it is actually the highest form of being with Krishna, even more than being with Krishna. Yes, Achintya Beda Beda Tattva de devotees. We cannot understand that, but again, we can appreciate it, try to appreciate it. So Prabhupada is elaborating on the intensity of their love and separation. And to have this mood that the gopis have, one needs to have a very special quality. That is the quality of utter humility. Utter humility. It's called dhainya in Sanskrit. It means complete humility. It means that I don't want anything in return. I am but your servant and I don't want nothing else. So therefore you can see again, this really sets them apart from all the other materialists, the vikarmis, the karmis and jnanis, and even the bhaktas from Vaikuntha. Completely sets them apart from all of them. The karmis, they want gross sense enjoyment, and the jnanis want a spiritual sense enjoyment, like their liberation. So one may wonder, looking at the gopis of Vrindavan, there was one Mataji who told me that she knew one Mataji who came to her and said, these gopis are always crying. I don't think it's very nice, I don't want to become like that. So one might wonder, like, spiritual life is meant to be full of bliss, but here I'm seeing that perfection is all about crying. There must be a problem here, right? From the mature point of view, there seems to be like a problem. But actually, Prabhupada says, there is no difference between thinking of Krishna and associating with him. Rather, Vipralamba Seva, thinking of Krishna in separation, as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, is far better than serving Krishna directly. That is actually a very important teaching in our line, in Mahaprabhu's line. Prabhupada once, do you all know when Prabhupada was traveling with Malati Mataji and Shamsundar Prabhu, their daughter, a little Saraswati was with them as well. And she had a very beautiful relationship, sweet relationship with Prabhupada. So one time this gentleman gave her a deity of Krishna. A deity of Krishna. And she became very much attached to this deity of Krishna. She was still a little girl. And then one time what happened? The deity went missing. The deity was missing. And the little girl was crying to him, where's Krishna? Where's my Krishna? And they were trying to look, everybody was trying to look for the deity for her, and she could not find the deity of Krishna. And she was becoming a bit like upset. Where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? And Srila Prabhupada was observing this, and he was like, yes, Saraswati, where is Krishna? And they kept saying, where is Krishna? What do you think is Krishna? And all the devotees caught on to his mood, and they were also asking her, yes, Saraswati, where is Krishna? Where is Krishna? And she was like, yeah, I don't know where's Krishna, I don't know where's Krishna. And all of a sudden, she realized, she opened her eyes wide, and she was like, oh, Prabhupada has Krishna, because Prabhupada had hidden the Krishna away. Then Prabhupada took Krishna out and gave him back to her, and she was very happy. Then Prabhupada, after this incident, he quotes this beautiful prayer from Sadhu Goswami Ashtakam. He Radhe Bhajadevi Ke Chaladite He Nanda Suno Putaha Shri Govardhana Kalpapada Patale Kanandi Banu Putaha. That verse is describing the mood of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. And that verse is saying that the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan, they never said, oh, I saw Krishna today. You know, Krishna revealed his form to me today. How wonderful. No, they never said that, even though that did happen to them. They were always pining, they were always hankering to see Krishna. That mood of separation, they were always cultivating this mood of separation. And that's our process. You know? So that you can imagine, therefore that mood of being separate from Krishna, it's born from the mood of humility. Again, we see how important humility is. We never think that, oh, I am so great now, I've achieved this. So you find this quote from Krishna book, where Prabhupada is talking about this. He says, to acquire this strong feeling of separation is the teaching of Lord Chaitanya and his direct disciples, the 6 Goswamis. When we are not in physical contact with Krishna, we can associate with him like the gopis through feelings of separation. Krishna's transcendental form, qualities, pastimes, and entourage are all identical with him. There are 9 different kinds of devotional service. Devotional service to Krishna in feelings of separation elevates the devotee to the highest perfectional level, to the level of the gopis. Yes, Purnakishore.
Yeah, because I think humility is more attractive to Krishna anyway. So the fact that you don't think you're special is more an attractive quality. And I think, I don't know the story exactly, but isn't he he's with Radharani, or he's carrying her, and she gets a bit cocky, and then he disappears, doesn't he? Like, he doesn't like it. Teach her a lesson, he just vanishes when she's getting a bit too over egotistic about him being with her, because that's not attractive to him. So see, yeah, yearning is always is desire. I suppose that's the real desire, isn't it? The yearning is the desire for the Lord. Whereas once you have it, the desire's gone, and what's the pleasure in that? It's not the same.
Thank you, yes. Yeah, Krishna, that's a lesson we learned from the Rasa dance, right? That first Krishna disappeared from the gopis because the gopis were becoming a bit proud. And then he disappears with Srimati Radharani, and she also displays symptoms of pride, and he disappears again there. One thing to remember though, that their pride is actually transcendental pride.
Yeah.
But it's a good lesson, but it still teaches us a lesson. It still teaches us a lesson in pride. But yeah, the reason why Krishna disappeared repeatedly like that was because if this transcendental pride, even though it's transcendental, if it keeps going on, then it's going to disrupt the rasa dance from happening properly, which is a whole discussion in and of itself. So I won't get into it now. But there are different reasons why Krishna did that, had to disappear. Otherwise, it wouldn't be good for everybody to experience wonderful bliss of Krishna consciousness. So yeah, so Prabhupada says that. Oh, sorry. Some problem there. So yes, so Prabhupada continues, it is stated in Srinivasa Acharya's prayer to the six Goswamis that they left the material opulences of government service and the princely status of life and went to Vrindavan, where they lived just like ordinary mendicants, begging from door to door. But they were so much enriched with the gopis' feelings of separation that they enjoyed transcendental pleasure at every moment. Similarly, when Lord Chaitanya was at Jagannath Puri, he was in the role of Radharani, feeling separation from Krishna. Those who are in the distributed succession of the Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya should always feel separation from Krishna, worship his transcendental form and discuss his transcendental teachings, his pastimes, his qualities, his entourage and his association. That will enrich the devotees to the highest devotional perfection. Feeling constant separation while engaged in the service of the Lord is the perfection of Krishna consciousness. So dear devotees, we should take note here that here Prabhupada is talking about a devotee who's practicing Raganuga sadhana. And that, as we were discussing last week, is actually already quite elevated form of Krishna consciousness. So yeah, that's what he's talking about. So for that devotee, they will start cultivating these feelings of separation from the Lord. So we see here, there's two things to take note in this paragraph, is that Prabhupada is saying we should always feel separation from Krishna. So there's an emphatic should there. So one may wonder then, okay, we're saying earlier is for the Raganuga Sadhaka, this kind of instruction. But then how do we apply that in our lives right now, for where we are right now? We're not on that level yet, but how relevant is it to me? Because we're reading this. Does that mean we just mope around all day and cry, oh, why have I not attained Krishna yet? No, dear devotees, that's not what we want. Sometimes you have to be careful here, because sometimes devotees sometimes do prematurely try to adopt this and just end up becoming dejected and depressed materially. That's not what we're talking about here. This feeling of separation is a transcendental. What we should be focusing on right now, as Prabhupada said himself by quoting his Guru Maharaj, is that we should not try to see Krishna. We act in such a way that Krishna will want to see you. So that's how he tries to apply this mood of separation. And Prabhupada himself, he felt, there are some classes, some conversations, when Prabhupada just left Vrindavan for America, but Prabhupada was feeling so much separation from Vrindavan, yet he continued to preach. Because his mood of separation was that he was always with Vrindavan, he was with Krishna. Therefore, he expressed his love by serving the Lord's mission. So he didn't hamper his service. So the exalted devotees, they have no problem staying in this material world and help deliver the conditioned souls. Why is that? Because they are always united with the Lord in the mood of separation, and in that way they're always serving the mission of the Lord. So in one sense, actually, they are never separate from Krishna. And also we can understand that mood in what Prabhupada says about chanting japa. Prabhupada has told us that we should chant japa like a child who's crying for his mother. That's the mood of separation that we can appreciate. Oh Lord, please give me shelter, I'm suffering in this material world, please give me shelter for your names. So that we can practice in that way. So therefore in this way we can take something from this purport. That first of all, we do not imitate the exalted souls. We just understand certain principles here. We can also feel a sense of separation from being separate from a critical level of advancement. For example, a relevant intermediate goal for us is Nishtha, the stage of Nishtha, because most of us are not on Nishtha yet. So we feel separation from that stage of Nishtha, or when will I reach that stage where I can be fixed in my devotional service? That's the mood that we should have. Not try to artificially experience these emotions. So, and in Krishna consciousness, if you remember the third verse of Nectar of Instruction, is that this mood is balanced with utsahan, enthusiasm, utsahan nishayat. So it's balanced, So it's not this artificial moping around which leads us to become depressed and we get a low sense of self-worth and we can't do anything more. We have to know how to apply it now. We can apply it in our japa, through separation from a particular level of advancement, whilst at the same time being enthusiastic to continue serving, because that's how we're going to make advancement and we complete Krishna. Yes, Pratik.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhu. It's very beautiful explanations and very practical. I have a question around because I come from Indian background, so there are many people, not many, but at least I've seen few directly who try to connect to Vrindavan on their own and try to meet like people from devotees from Vrindavan, not necessarily from Gaudiya, and or probably Gaudiya, but like not following the line of Prabhupada, and they try to follow the few things from Vrindavan, try to imitate, put like a black tilak, ISKCON tilak, but it like a black color, and they chant Radhe Radhe, they dance Radhe Radhe, they kind of try to do all these things. And what's your opinion on that? Because they don't necessarily follow everything, follow some of the things like book distribution, doing all these things here, and then thinking that we are like almost Brajvasi now. So it's kind of confuses me sometimes. Like, what is how do you see that, man?
That's a very good query, Prabhu, actually. It's very important because that tends to happen more and more nowadays. As the glories of Vrindavan begins to spread and people go there being enchanted by the place, they adopt these different practices. I mean, first of all, there are different types of devotees, and it's hard for me to kind of make a judgment about it because I don't know between them and Krishna. But based on certain principles of spiritual life, first of all, is that we understand that becoming a Brajavasi is no cheap thing. Being a Brajavasi is not just about adopting the external practices of what a Brajavasi does, it's the heart. What is that heart? That heart is, first of all, like I will serve Krishna no matter what. And if Krishna tells me to do this, I will do it. It's very selfless. We're cultivating that mood of Brajavasi. My spiritual master once said that look at the pastime of Kaliya. So if you study the pastime, you find that Krishna, he was in the chorus of Kaliya, and that he stayed lying in the chorus of Kaliya for, I can't remember exactly how long, but quite a long time, almost an hour, I think. And our acharyas asked the question, why did he just stay there like that and not do anything to sort Kaliya out? Why did he wait? The answer is because he was waiting for all the Brajavasis to come to see this, And what happened when all the Brajavasis come? What happened? They were horrified. They almost died. He described it, seeing Krishna in danger. So, and we may ask the question, but why would Krishna do that to them? The reason Krishna does that is because he's increasing their love even more. So that's what it means to be a Brajavasi. Are we ready for that kind of? If we aspire to be a Brajavasi, are we ready for that kind of thing? Because that's what it means to be a Brajavasi. Krishna will make us go through a lot of tests just to bring out more Krishna consciousness out of us. So that's very deep. It's very deep. So so this description you gave, Prabhu, about the different persons who go. I mean, first of all, in Vrindavan, there's many different lines. All of them are not necessarily Gaudiya lines, and some of them are, and some of them are not with the line of Bhakti Siddhanta and Srila Prabhupada. So you find the very different ways of practicing there. So you will see like different lines as well, how they have different ways of approaching Krishna consciousness. So sometimes it's very different to the way Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta has taught us. So what we tend to see, like the way Srila Bhaktisiddhanta and Prabhupada taught us to be Krishna conscious and to become attached to Vrindavan, is very systematic and we do so in a very cautious way. Other places in Vrindavan may not necessarily do that. It may seem to focus a lot on higher topics very early, and that's very attractive. It is. It's Krishna in Vrindavan.
Yeah.
So then what may tend to happen, I'm not saying it's the case with all of them, but what may tend to happen is that you're encouraging a more sentimental approach to Krishna consciousness. So it's based on feelings. So it's sentimental, but not based on the philosophy. You haven't understood the philosophy properly. So here's the thing: if you try to be sentimental Krishna conscious, Prabhupada does say that a sentimental devotee, Krishna will still recognize them and still help them along the path. But the thing is, if you're only being sentimental, you cannot progress very well in Krishna consciousness because you're not knowing what to give up. You know, if you sentimental through the philosophy, you understand that I have to give up some material desires. I have to come to the mode of goodness. And on the platform of mode of goodness, I can develop, when I'm more fixed in the mode of goodness, I can develop and cultivate more attraction and attachment for Krishna when I'm in the mode of goodness. So if you're just sentimental, you may tend not to know that or be aware of that. And you think, oh, this is nice, I'm being Krishna conscious. So I would say it would be a bit dangerous actually. You probably won't get the results that you're looking for. It's basically, it could easily become a form of sahaja. So you have to be very careful of that. And if one tries to think that I'm on a level that I'm not on yet, without being realistic, then you're not going to make advancement. You know, if I think if I need to get to India and I think I'm in Delhi when I'm in London, then really I won't be able to get there because I think I'm in Delhi when I'm actually in London. You know? It won't work. You end up getting lost because the idea of yourself is like different. Where you are is different. So yes, it's best to stick to the way our spiritual masters are teaching us how to be in ISKCON. It's amazing actually what Srila Bhaktivedanta and Srila Prabhupada has given us. They have given us, like I think I explained it in the first class, that Prabhupada has given us the blueprint of how to become lovers of Krishna, how to become a Vrajavasi in this day and age. Because the way he's presented Krishna consciousness to us is in a very safe way. He protects us at every step of the way from becoming sentimental and from becoming sahajas. He protects us from that. So we should stick to that. And obviously some persons may choose not to do that, then what can we do? But let's not follow in the same way. But it's good to become attached to Vrindavan. We should appreciate from our side, because we're not their guru. We can maybe just appreciate. Okay, we're attached to Vrindavan. How nice. But we are loyal to how our spiritual teachers have taught us and how they are guiding us. Yeah. So yes, that's how I would see it. And also, like wearing Radha Kuntilak, black tilak, you'd be surprised that I found a conversation where that's when Prabhupada was in Vrindavan and devotees were going to Radha Kund, and some disciples told Prabhupada, they're wearing Radha Kuntilak. And Prabhupada said, well, that's fine, there's no problem with that. But then he said that, well, but still, we should respect Radha Kund very well. We will be quoting that conversation soon. So technically speaking, when Radha Kund Tilak, there's no harm. Prabhupada says there's no harm. But if you're talking about how they are practicing their spiritual life, and I see that as well, it does appear to be quite sentimental. So we don't want that. Just being sentimental will not take us very deep. Actually, it's just superficial. But if we practice the philosophy properly, chant our rounds properly, follow the rules and regulations properly, improve ourselves, we may one day do those very same things, but it's like coming in a very deep way. You know, it's like it's deep and it's changing our life for the better. You know, it won't be like a khichdi. You know, when you're sentimental, it's kind of like a mixture of things. Does that help, Pratik?
A lot. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Because I've seen at least 3 people doing this at different level of seniorities. Some new, some mid, some high, and it was very confusing. So I really love you said, if they don't, Prabhupada has and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati has given this systematic way that then you know that you have to give up something for Krishna. It's not just the sentiments, and to understand what you should be giving up, you need knowledge and you need to practice this safer way to approach that state, and then you can actually reach it safely there rather than just trying to bypass few things. Yeah, because internet is making everybody crazy. So what they see in the night and they say next day is very different. So yeah, thank you so much.
I would say just also like Prabhupada says in one of the purpose to NOI, he says devotees who are a bit sentimental, just offer respect. You know, they're still devotees.
Yeah.
Well, that's a question, Prabhu. Were they ISKCON devotees or were they just devotees from other? Or what is
One of them is ISKCON devotee, like for many years, and still is not initiated. He just tries to say Radhe Radhe to everybody, trying to preach to new people Radhe Radhe. So people who come to temple few days and then when they meet this guy, they start saying Radhe Radhe to everybody, not following chanting rounds, not chanting 16 rounds, and so these type of things. So I started thinking like if this is helping, like really approaching Vrindavan in your own way, how beneficial is that? I'm hearing my own voice. Sorry, somebody's having mic and speaker on.
Oh, someone has a speaker on.
Sorry, maybe I shouldn't speak anything, but so yeah, so this is confusing few people, and I happen to do some service with some of them, and then I was like, the Leela was Radhashtami last year, and they were asking, oh, Prabhupada says these things, that thing. So these people start questioning Prabhupada's philosophy, and I said, no, it's not Prabhupada, it's Krishna saying, and Prabhupada is presenting as it is. So if you're thinking this is said by, no, so the things are different. So I'm being like studying all these things. I understand because of my good probably I got really good mentors and really good association so far. So I have not been distracted. So, but like, and I've seen these people working them with them. It's like I felt little uncomfortable, and but I was having these questions in my heart, so I just asked it like,
No, it's
how to see this? Yeah.
very important. It's going to happen more and more, you know, because like you said, with the internet, everybody can find anything. Yeah, so yeah, we should just make sure, like, especially when people start like openly criticizing Prabhupada the way he presents things. Especially sometimes you hear, I don't hear it so much now, but sometimes you do hear that, oh, Prabhupada didn't give the highest thing, etc. I'm just like, you don't know what you're talking about. You haven't read Prabhupada's books. Clearly, you haven't read Nectar of Instruction, you know. So, what are you talking about? Like that. Yeah, so like that. Okay,
Thank you so much.
So let's continue reading. Rather, Vipralamba Seva, thinking of Krishna's separation as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did, is far better than serving Krishna directly. Thus, of all the devotees who have developed an unalloyed devotional love for Krishna, the gopis are most exalted. But out of all these exalted devotees, Srimati Radharani is the highest. No one can excel the devotional service of Srimati Radharani. Indeed, even Krishna cannot understand the attitude of Srimati Radharani. Therefore, he took her position and appeared as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just to understand her transcendental feelings. Jai Srimati Radharani ki Jai. In this way, Srila Rupa Goswami gradually concludes that Srimati Radharani is the most exalted devotee of Krishna, and that her Kunda lake, Sri Radhakund, is the most exalted place. This is verified in a quotation from Laghu Bhagavatamrita, Uttarakhanda 45, as quoted in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yatha Radha Priya Vishnu Tasya Kundam Priyantata Sarva Gopishu Saivaika Vishnu Atyanta Vallabha. Just as Srimati Radharani is dear to the Supreme Lord Krishna, Vishnu, so her bathing place Radhakund is equally dear to him. Among all the gopis, she alone stands supreme as the Lord's most beloved. Therefore, everyone interested in Krishna consciousness should ultimately take shelter of Radhakund and execute devotional service there throughout one's life. This is the conclusion of Rupa Goswami in the 10th verse of Upadeshamrita. Prabhupada makes the point here that Lord Chaitanya appeared to experience the same mood of separation that Srimati Radharani experienced. Jagannath Puri, there's a special place where Mahaprabhu exhibited those ecstasies. That was in a place called the Gambira. If you've been to Jagannath Puri, you know that's that room there where he exhibited amazing symptoms of ecstasy. And then we have this Prabhupada ends this purport with this quote. Therefore, everyone interested in Krishna consciousness should ultimately take shelter of Radha and execute devotional service there throughout one's life. This is the conclusion of Rupa Goswami in the 10th verse of Upadeshamrita. So, dear devotees, we need to see this with a bit of context here. You know, like, what does it mean? Does that mean all of us should go to Radha Kund now? Is that what this verse is talking about? Remember that these last two verses are dealing with the stages of Bhava and Prema. That should indicate that what Prabhupada is discussing in this purport and what Rupa Goswami is talking about in this verse is actually very high level Krishna consciousness. In other words, actually physically residing in Radha Kund right now is actually a very elevated thing. Maybe it's not for us right now. If you go back to the text, to verse number 10, this line that I've highlighted. It says, who will not reside in Radha Kund in a spiritual body surcharged with ecstatic devotional feelings, aprakrita bhava. In a spiritual body, dear devotees. So clearly, this is not just a matter of physically going there and living there. We're talking about the aprakrita platform. See that term, aprakrita bhava? That's the aprakrita platform is the unmanifest platform. It's basically the spiritual world. You know, like right now when we go to Vrindavan, to the Dham right now, is what we see is, it is Vrindavan, but it's what we describe as Bhoma Vrindavan. So Bhoma Vrindavan has a special feature in that once Krishna has disappeared from our vision, a curtain of Maya covers the Dham. The Dham becomes known as Drishtya Mana Dham. So therefore what happens, the real nature of the Dham gets revealed to us to the degree that we let go of the material tendency to lord over material nature. So the degree we stop trying to be Krishna, to that degree, the Dham will reveal herself to us. So for this devotee that we're talking about in this verse, they have completely given up this tendency of exploiting Maya. So they're seeing past this curtain of Maya, therefore they're seeing Radha Kund, the unmanifest Radha Kund that we don't see right now. And also this verse is also talking about rendering loving service to the divine couple Shri Shri Radha Govinda who perform the Ashtakalya Leela, the eternal eightfold daily pastimes. They are actually rendering service in the Lord's pastimes. They actually enter the pastime. That's basically the stage of samadhi. One is absorbed in those pastimes and one is actually participating in it. So basically, it's very, very advanced. To reside in Radha Kund, what we're talking about in this verse is something very elevated. So like that. So therefore, the devotees to live in the Dham is actually not advisable, you know, unless you have a particular service that your spiritual master has given you. You know, if not, then if we go and reside there prematurely, we may end up committing offenses. So the way we can appreciate Radha Kund right now is actually we can go and for obeisances, take a dip in Radha Kund, perform parikrama of Radha Kund and glorify Radha Kund. That's what we can do right now. For our level to go and reside there, do not do that without proper guidance of your spiritual master. Jai Shri Radha Kund, Shama Kund ki Jai, Shri Rupa Goswami ki Jai, Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. So dear devotees, are there any more questions for this verse? If there's any more comments, please feel free to share. And if you don't have anything, then we can just break off for 10 minutes and then we reconvene to the last verse of Shri Rupa Goswami. Everyone seems happy. Okay, let's take a break then for 10 minutes. So we'll see each other again at 20 past 12. Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I am back. Okay, I can see Sashkumar Prabhu is back. So we're just going to start with text number 11. Maybe I'll wait another couple of minutes to make sure everyone is coming back slowly but surely. In the meantime, I'll share my slides. Okay, Hare Krishna, dear devotees. I can see everyone is mostly back. So welcome once again. This will be the last part of our last session. So I'm feeling quite sad that I won't be getting all of your association again. But let's leave with a bang, so to speak. Yeah, we'll finish by talking about Radha Kund and Srimati Radharani. Can't be anything greater than that. Okay. Let's read text number 11. Krishna Shyoshay Pranaya Vasati Prayasibhyo Pirada Kundam Chasya Munibirapitas Tatrireva Vyadhayi Yad Preshterapi Yalamasulava Kim Punar Bhakti Bhajam Tat Premedam Sakirapachara Snatur Avishkaroti. Of the many objects of favored delight, and of all the lovable damsels of Rajabhumi, Srimati Radharani is certainly the most treasured object of Krishna's love. And in every respect, her divine Kunda is described by great sages as similarly dear to him. Undoubtedly, Radha Kund is very rarely attained, even by the great devotees. Therefore, it is even more difficult for ordinary devotees to attain. If one simply bathes once within those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. So, within our Kripa of devotion, we're still dealing with Bhava and Prema. Bhava is basically the threshold of love of God. It's where one's heart is melting in devotional service. And at Prema, it's the same symptoms, but it's intensified so much more. So having reached this point in Nectar of Instruction, we may gloss over this section, because it's very high level. It's very lofty stage, lofty discussions in Krishna consciousness. So we may wonder what's the point in studying this. But it's there in Prabhupada's book, so if anything, we should try and develop a sense of deep respect for Srimati Radharani and her personal abode. So we may wonder, then how should we view and appreciate Srimati Radharani and her personal abode on our level as sadhakas? How do we take it right now? We're not on Bhava, we're not on Prema, but how do we understand it? Yes, how do we understand? So let's hear a little bit about Sri Radha Tattva, about the most glorious position of Srimati Radharani, and that will give us a bit of context as how to see this purport. So first of all, let's see, what does Srila Prabhupada himself say about Srimati Radharani in the Nectar of Devotion, Nectar of Instruction, in the very first, I think second verse or third, second verse of Nectar of Instruction. Srila Prabhupada tells us something about her. In the above quoted verse from Bhagavad Gita 9.13, the words Devim Prakritim refer to the control of the internal potency or pleasure potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This pleasure potency is manifested as Srimati Radharani or her expansion Lakshmi, the goddess of fortune. That's the first thing that Prabhupada tells us about Srimati Radharani. So she is the spiritual potency of Krishna that gives bliss to Krishna. The happiness that Krishna experiences is not material, it's spiritual, it's of the same nature as him. And that is Srimati Radharani. So one time Srila Prabhupada asked this question to all of his disciples. He asked them, who is God? You know. So his disciples are probably wondering, like, why is he asking this question? Like, who is God? So obviously the devotees asked him, no, they didn't ask him, the devotees replied, well, Krishna, of course. And then Prabhupada said, no, it's not Krishna. And the devotees were wondering, oh, well, what's happening? Has there been a coup in the spiritual world? You know, God, the position of God has been taken over by somebody else. And then Prabhupada said, no, Krishna is not God. Radha and Krishna is God. So our philosophy is that of Shakti Shaktiman, Abed. You know, the energy and the energetic is identical. So you have Krishna as the supreme powerful being. But how can Krishna be the supremely powerful being if he doesn't have his supreme power? Shakti Shaktiman. So that is Radha and Krishna. Krishna is supremely powerful and she is a supreme power. So just like the sun. Can you imagine a sun which has no sun rays? It wouldn't be the sun, right? It wouldn't be the sun anymore. It would be some dead planet, you know. The sun can only be the sun because of its energy that's emanating from it. So similar way, there is no such thing as Krishna without Radha. They're one. They're one supreme absolute truth. You know. So in Chaitanya Charitamrita it says Radha Krishna Pranaya Vakritir Ladini Shakti Asmad Ekat Manav Abhibhuva Deha Bedam Gatoto. That Radha Krishna are actually one, but they are separate. They separate eternally for us. They're one, but they separate eternally for the sake of their transcendental pastimes. Oh, this chat box came in between. Okay. Yes. So is Radha Krishna actually one? They're not two separate persons. So Prabhupada says in a lecture elsewhere, he says, Krishna alone is called the Vasudeva feature. But Radha and Krishna, that's perfect with all potencies. The absolute truth with potencies. Srimati Radharani is the source of all potencies. So basically she is the source of all the energies of Krishna. So she is the original potency of Krishna. So in Krishna's book, Prabhupada describes something really nice. He describes this scene when Krishna returns to the Rasa dance. And he says, when Lord Krishna finally reappeared amongst the assembled gopis, he looked very beautiful, just befitting a person with all kinds of opulences. In the Brahma Samhita it is stated, Ananda Chinmaya Rasa Pratibhavikabi. Krishna alone is not particularly beautiful. But when his energy, especially his pleasure energy, represented by Radharani, expands, he looks very magnificent. The Mayavad conception of perfection and absolute truth without potency is due to insufficient knowledge. Yes, so Radha and Krishna are the absolute truth. They are God together. So we have this beautiful verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita. Yes, Ganesh Prabhu.
Hi Krishna Prabhu. Harini Mataji has a question in the chat. She has a question in the chat. It says, can we pray to Radharani directly and try to develop a relationship with her? Seniors told me that it's better to go through Krishna because she's a secret, she's hidden, and more difficult to approach than Krishna. So how can we approach her without making offenses?
Oh, I'm trying to access the chat box, but I can't. Oh, here you go. Okay, Harini Mataji says, can we pray to Radharani directly and try to develop a relationship with her? Seniors told me that it's better to go through Krishna because she's more difficult to approach than Krishna. So how can... Oh, this is very deep question. Very deep. I have heard both things. You know, so you find statements by Prabhupada where he says, actually, I will show it later. In these slides, I have a quote where Prabhupada is saying, actually, you can't approach Krishna without getting in touch with Radharani first. So, you know, if you want to offer Krishna a flower, Prabhupada says, show the flower to her first. Rather put the flower in her hand, she'll give it to Krishna, then you're sure Krishna's going to accept it. So there's that understanding. And then there's this understanding that you mentioned, Harini Mataji, which is also true. It is, you could take it to mean a very, like, maybe a deeper understanding in a sense, because yes, if you look at the way Srimati Radharani is presented in our line, to be able to understand her, the tattva, you have to go through Krishna tattva first. If you go through Chaitanya Charitamrita, you know, the 4th chapter of Adi Lila is discussing all about Radharani. But there's 2 other chapters before which discusses other things that are important to know first, and one of them is understanding Krishna. So yes, so really, if you think about it, unless you understand that Krishna is a supreme personality of Godhead, that has all these potencies and everything, really, you would not really be able to understand who she is, because her entire existence, her entire being is about loving and pleasing Krishna. So in that sense, you have to go through Krishna first to understand her. You can't go to her direct. Actually, she's in one sense more mysterious than Krishna. So in that way, this is also true. That basically we cannot. She's actually the hidden secret of the Vedas. You know, so that is also true. So then the question is, how can we approach her without making offenses? Well, I hope the slides that are going to come next will help you understand that, because that's what I'm trying to do here, to try to discuss how it's what's the appropriate way for us to approach her, for our level. So I hope these slides that are going to come are going to answer your question, Mataji. And if it doesn't, just let me know. Then we go through I can try and explain further. And then Sashikumar Prabhu also shared something. The 16,000 Kaho damsels are a display of 16 varieties of internal potencies. What are the 16 varieties of internal potencies being referred to here? Also, Sashikumar Prabhu, I have an answer to your question, but I need to find the names, but I do have it. So you find basically that Srimati Radharani, she is the original internal potency, and from her all the gopis expand, and they all represent these different varieties of internal potencies that are expanding from her. So I can find them out, Prabhu, but I'll have to look for them after the class. Because
amazing,
I made a presentation once for devotees quite a few years ago, and I did some research, because Krishna's potencies are unlimited, so there are different names for the different types of potencies. So I'll find them out and then send them.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Maybe I'll send it onto the LCVS Bhakti Shastri.
On the group, yeah. Thank you, Hare Krishna.
So yeah, say this nice verse from Adi Lila that describes the transcendental goddess Srimati Radharani, that she is the direct counterpart of Lord Shri Krishna. She is the central figure for all the goddesses of fortune. She possesses all the attractiveness to attract the all-attractive personality of Godhead. She is the primeval internal potency of the Lord. Actually, Harini Mataji, regarding your question, a thought just came up, is that, as I was saying, there's evidence for both ways, going through Radha to Krishna or going from Krishna to Radha. I think those 2 ways will be dependent on the realization of the devotee. That would be it. It would depend on the realization of the devotee. Like you find some devotees saying also, Srimati Radharani is more pleased than Krishna. There are some references that describe it's the other way around. It's easier to please Krishna than to please her. Something like that. So it depends on your realization as well. So yes, Srimati Radharani, she possesses all the attractiveness to attract the all-attractive personality of Godhead. She is the primeval internal potency of the Lord. Srimati Radharani is the personified Ladini Shakti, the pleasure-giving energy of the Lord's internal potency, and therefore she is the only source of enjoyment for Sri Krishna. So Chaitanya Charitamrita also describes that this Ladini energy, the Ladini potency, gives Krishna pleasure, and also nourishes Krishna's devotees. So dear devotees, sometimes when you experience in a kirtan, in a class, or doing your service, you're experiencing this amazing happiness, this bliss, we should know it's coming from the Ladini potency, it's coming from Srimati Radharani. That's how Krishna nourishes us through his Ladini potency. And when a devotee reaches a level of prema, it is the Ladini potency is bestowed upon the living entity. And that's what makes the devotee able to attract Krishna's attention. Krishna Karshini. That quality is there in those pure devotees, in those prema bhaktas. And that's because the Ladini potency has been bestowed upon that living entity. The nectar of devotion actually describes that because of this, bhakti is transcendentally stronger than Krishna. And because there's no greater devotee than Srimati Radharani, therefore she is transcendentally stronger than Krishna. Therefore we have so many wonderful pastimes where she is attracting Krishna. So therefore that's why we understand that she is the queen of devotion, the goddess of devotion. So although to our mundane eyes it looks like the exchanges of an ordinary boy and girl, it is nothing like it. Nothing. It's merely a really bad, perverted shadow of it. Radha and Krishna's pastimes are basically, it's just one person who's become two. Therefore, it's only Krishna reciprocating with his own spiritual energy, his own energies. He's dealing with himself in one sense. Like Prabhupada gives the example, it's like Krishna, when Krishna is dealing with the gopis, it's like Krishna is like a child looking into the mirror and playing with his reflection in the mirror. It's very innocent, it's very pure, like that. So Srimati Radharani, she is the queen of devotion, the goddess of devotion. Therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, he describes, therefore Radha is Parama Devata, the supreme goddess, and she is worshipable for everyone. She is the protectress of all, and she is the mother of the entire universe. Note that Prabhupada says here, mother of the entire universe. The Sanskrit is Jagatera Mata. So by taking shelter of devotional service, dear devotees, because Srimati Radharani is the presiding deity of devotional service, by practicing bhakti, we're placing ourselves under the shelter of our divine mother. So, Harini Mataji, I'm hoping this verse answers your question. How do we approach her and pray to her without making offenses at our level? Based on what Prabhupada says, and he elaborates on this principle a lot, that she is the mother of the jiva. She's like our transcendental mother, and Krishna is the father. So that is the better way for us to approach her right now. So that's our position. We cannot relate to her in terms of rasa yet, because we're still conditioned souls. But we definitely can approach her in this sense as the mother of the entire universe. So that's something we can relate to, is it not? We're all seeking shelter in this world. We're suffering because we're under the shelter of Maya. But we're taking the shelter of our mother, Srimati Radharani, who's nourishing us with the bliss of Krishna consciousness, who's sheltering us with her compassion. And that is wonderful. So in that regard, I wish to read for you, a beautiful prayer that His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami wrote in relation to this. He wrote a prayer to Srimati Radharani as the Divine Mother. So please allow me to read that for you. And that gives us a nice understanding of how we can approach her for us right now. So he says, he wrote this prayer on Radhastami Day. So he says, "My dear Divine Mother, today is your appearance day. What can I offer you? It is not easy to give something to someone who has everything, and my attempt may offend you as it carries with it the suggestion of need. What do you need? You are perfect and complete, because none is more dear to the Universal Father than you. My dear Mother, today is your appearance day. Everyone considers their appearance day the most important day. The wise know, however, that your day is the real day for celebration. However, isn't it an offense to celebrate your birthday as it suggests that there was a time when you did not exist or were not available? Your love is all-pervasive, ever fresh, and your existence gives everything else a reason to be. My dear Divine Mother, today is your appearance day. The creatures in these material universes were forced to take birth due to their desire to enjoy material sense gratification. Their birth is a punishment, a period of confinement in a material prison. Our bodies are the prison uniforms, and the cities, states, nations, and planets are all places of repeated birth and death, characterized by constant harassment. You are not only a resident of the spiritual world, with a body of pure devotion to our Divine Father, but you manage to extend your protective energies as the guardian of the devotees. Dear Mother, please do not abandon us, even though we hold tightly on to our prison mentalities. My dear Mother, today is your appearance day. Even though as your children we are so insubordinate, you continue to extend yourself, guiding us in selfless mercy. When will that day come when, embarrassed, we will realize how poorly we reciprocate your encouragement? My dear Divine Mother, today is your appearance day, and we are all reminded that every true saint attains love of the Universal Father through you. You hold the key that unlocks the bhakti stored in the hearts of everyone. You ring the bell that attracts the attention of our beloved Father. No one can go to him or even attract a second of his attention without your blessings. Oh, how we long for those blessings. My dear Mother, today is your appearance day, and as usual, your thoughts are on others. We all want to chant your glories, but you have defeated us terribly by putting our cases before our beloved Father, telling him to please bless us. Some have heard you say, "Hey Govinda, these devotees are serving so nicely. Please receive them. They are better servants than I." Oh Mother, how can we ever come up to a standard that really deserves your affection and endorsements? My dear Mother, today is your appearance day. Let every atom vibrate your name. Your servants in Vrindavan chant your name before and after all activities. Your name is the means and the end. They know nothing but you. They speak only of you. They see all beauty as a reflection of your splendor. They are so intoxicated with your pastimes that whoever associates with these great souls immediately contracts their disease. Even if this contagious fever spreads all over the entire universe, still the residents would never be able to glorify you sufficiently. What can I offer to you in general? What to say of this most auspicious day of your appearance day? My dear Mother, today is your appearance day, and I have nothing to offer you except the potential offenses of a puffed-up madman. Who am I to think that I have the right to present something to you? However, if I do not try, how much more offensive will I be, as you are so merciful that you have even made arrangements to give such a lowly fool as myself blessings? How am I so unqualified and unworthy, able to receive your blessings? This is surely a sign of your causeless mercy. Divine Mother, I can only get a glimpse of your causeless mercy when I attempt to even think of offering something to you, as I am most expert at taking. On this auspicious day, I run after those great true devotees of yours, demanding one particle of dust from their lotus feet, which is sufficient to remove the tons of dust accumulated on my heart. Once this dust is completely removed, I will be able to offer you in service the only thing I seem to value, my life. Contaminated as I am, such a life is presently useless. Although you are in need of nothing, Divine Mother, please grant me forgiveness on all sides and allow me association with your true bhaktas. Otherwise, I shall remain in disgrace, passing another year without nothing of value to offer you. I am the lowly one. Jai Bhakti Swami ki Jai. Very beautiful, no? So I hope I've been able to give you an image or like an idea of what is a proper mood for us. You know? So yeah, that based on what Prabhupada himself says, this is how he's advising us to approach her. You know? Srila Prabhupada continues to say in some other quotes, he says, He says, this chanting of Hare Krishna is exactly like the cry of a child for its mother's presence. Mother Hara, Srimati Radharani, helps the devotee achieve the Lord Father's grace, and the Lord reveals himself to the devotee who chants this mantra sincerely. So anyone who comes before Radharani to serve Krishna, oh, she becomes so pleased. Oh, he is a devotee of Krishna. She immediately recommends Krishna, oh, he is a devotee, he is better than me. This is Radharani. I may be a or not a devotee. I may be the most fallen rascal. But if I try to reach Krishna through Radharani, then my business is successful. Therefore, we should worship Radharani first. That is our business. Instead of offering directly one flower to Krishna, you just put it in the hands of Radharani. My dear Radharani, Jagat Mata, if you kindly take this flower and offer it to Krishna, oh, Radharani says, oh, you have brought a flower? Krishna said, Patram Pusham Palam Toyam Yame Bhakti Priyachiti. But don't try to offer Krishna directly, just offer through Radharani. It will be very much appreciated by Radharani. Like that. So I have another quote here. Yes, Sachikumani, my Prabhu.
No, sorry, but if we can hear your other quote, then
Oh, yes. I'll share. This one I have Prabhupada speaking himself, so that should be very nice. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. So we hear from Prabhupada's from his own mouth here about the glorious position of Srimati Radharani. And yes, that I would say that this is the right way to approach her based on what Harini Mataji asked earlier. And it appears actually Harini Mataji as I was listening to this, because there is a statement by Raghunath Das Goswami where he's saying this. You go through Krishna to reach Srimati Radharani. That seems to apply to devotees who have come to a certain level where they are realizing their identity in the spiritual world as being in Madhura Rasa, and particularly as maidservants of Srimati Radharani. So that would be for somebody on that level, from what I understand. But for us, what we're seeing here about Prabhupada is the safest way that we can approach her without committing offenses. Basically, to commit offenses against her would be to try and enter into the different pastimes that we're probably not ready to hear yet. That would probably be offensive. But to see her as our divine mother, who's bringing us closer to Krishna, and hearing about her through the sound vibration of bona fide devotees, that's very nice. Yes, Sachikumani, my Prabhu?
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Yeah. I'm just curious. Like, a couple of things that are coming to my consciousness as we're listening to the inquiry discussion, and one of them is about Lord Chaitanya, because when I'm hearing Radha and Krishna, for some reason I'm thinking like 5,000 years ago in India, like Radha and Krishna, like that. And when but when I think of Lord Chaitanya, then it seems to make it a lot more accessible, because maybe it's closer, it's 500 years ago, but also that Lord Chaitanya is very merciful and he doesn't take offenses in that way. So that's one thing. And I'm also thinking in relation to that the Goswamis and Lord Chaitanya's associates, they also gave us like Vidagdha Madhava, Lalita Madhava, these transcendental plays, which also kind of engage in the very intimate kind of loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. And then the other thing that was just coming to mind is in the Hare Krishna mantra as well. I think the different devotees, they analyze each syllable, I think, like that. But it kind of occurs as though Radha and Krishna are there in the mantra, and it's almost like like in answer to that question, how can we approach? Then it occurs as maybe the chanting Hare Krishna is our access, and chanting the Panchatattva mantra before that, so it's like back to basics almost, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure, Prabhu. That was very nice. Yes. The Maha Mantra is there. Prabhupada gave a very nice and concise and simple definition of the Maha Mantra. That, O Radha, energy of the Lord, O Krishna, please engage me in your service. And of course, you can't understand Radha and Krishna in this day and age without Mahaprabhu's mercy, without Lord Nityananda's mercy, even before Mahaprabhu's mercy. So praying to the Panchatattva before chanting the holy name is like the sure way forward. Yes, go ahead, Prabhu.
Hi, Krishna Prabhu. You remind me of a question that some of me and the other youth have been talking about. It's like, I think Nagesh remembers, me and Nagesh were talking about it. And it was like, so you're saying, who's the most merciful out of, like, it was like this thing of like, who wants to be a millionaire? And it says, who's the most merciful? And it's Radharani, Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Nityananda Prabhu. So who's like,
Who's most merciful?
it's not a direct answer, but like I like asking people to see what their answer would be.
Well, so I heard His Holiness Shivaram Swami, Shivaram Swami Maharaj, he answered that question once, and he said Srimati Radharani is she's incredibly merciful. Prabhupada says, I didn't bring this quote here, Prabhupada says Srimati Radharani is Krishna's compassionate nature personified. So obviously she's incredibly compassionate. But he was saying that if she'd be compassionate if she knows you, he was saying. That's how he put it. Like if she knows you, she'll be compassionate to you. But when Krishna takes on the mood of Radharani, that same compassionate mood, because Mahaprabhu is not making any distinction at all, so he just gives it to everyone, regardless, he appears in this world. So when they become one, basically, Radha and Krishna become one. So in that sense, you could say, well, Mahaprabhu is more merciful. But then, but then even Mahaprabhu makes some distinction. Then who's the one who makes no distinction at all, whether you're a dacoit or a gunda or like a crazy person, a drunkard? That's Nitya, right? So really, you think about it from Nityananda. But then again, Nityananda and Mahaprabhu may be the most merciful. But what is the foundation of their mercy? Again, it's Radharani's mood.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's like,
So it's like,
isn't Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu just Radharani again?
yeah.
So I was like, maybe because it's a mix of them. Then I was like, and then my friend was like, but Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is Krishna trying to be Radharani, right? Or it's like it's more complicated than that. But like, I think that's a simple way to say it. I don't know if I'm missing something. So it's like maybe it goes back to but they're all the same person because it's all Krishna, but you don't like because it's like all just expansions of Krishna. So it's like arguing a topic, which is always just a loop.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
So unless you separate them.
there are distinctions in relationship.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Sachinta Beda Beda Tattva. Thank you for that.
Wait, what did you just say, Prabhu? What was that? You said something in Sanskrit.
It's Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, simultaneous oneness and difference.
Okay, well, can you say that one more time so I can write it down? It sounds like
Simultaneous oneness.
the Sanskrit. The Sanskrit.
Achintya Beda Abeda Tattva.
You say Akinya?
Achinya. So writing in the chat. Let me write in the chat. If you Google it on Veda base,
Yes.
you find many references to it.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Oh, I can't find the chat now. It's not coming up. It's not coming up. Yeah, anyway, just type it, you'll find it. Simultaneous oneness and difference. So you find this is Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, that's Mahaprabhu's philosophy. It's basically the essence of all the philosophy from the other three Vaishnava lines, all combined into one understanding. And that's uniquely in our line, in Mahaprabhu's line. And basically that's Achintya Beda Beda Tattva, you find it that it's relevant on different levels of understanding Krishna and his energies. So for example, it's relevant in the way we talk about the material world and him, and then also relevant in terms of his spiritual energies and him, and also and him, and also in terms of his expansions and him as well. So it's all like a Achintya Beda Beda Tattva all the way through, from beginning.
We were just talking about this in Bhagavatam class today about how like Krishna, then it goes down to Nara, like there's a whole thing down, and then because someone asked about how Krishna, because Prabhu said something, and I was like, I don't understand. He's like, oh, Krishna ignores the material energy. And anyway, but yeah, we're talking about it. It's really cool that everything, like this morning I was talking about it, and now this afternoon it's coming again.
Yes.
Krishna's given me clarification on what it means.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you. Yeah, so Prabhupada is ending this this is the class, this Radhastami class. He's saying that you see, Krishna, he does everything, yet Srimati Radharani, he fails to understand. She is that great. So there are two very beautiful pastimes I'd like to share with you. The first one is a beautiful pastime whereby Krishna was thinking that I really want to understand more Srimati Radharani's, the nature of her love for me. It's a mystery to me. I don't quite understand it. So what he does, he disguises himself as a demigoddess. Describes he wears a red sari as a demigoddess, and he comes covering her head. Then comes into Radharani's courtyard where she is with her friends. And they all see this demigoddess come in, and they're really intrigued as to who is this wonderful person? And Srimati Radharani is really curious. She's like, wow, this lady is so wonderful. When I see her, I'm feeling the same ecstasy when I see Krishna. Wow, this is amazing. But Yogamaya has covered all of them. They can't understand that's actually Krishna. So they all approach this demigoddess, and they ask her, "Oh my dear Devi, who are you? Are you from the heavenly planets? Are you okay? You seem a bit dejected." And all the demigoddess does is go, doesn't say anything. It just sighs in like in a very sad way, and then they're like, please tell us what's happened to you. Are you okay? Are you also attracted to Krishna just like us, and because you wish to serve him and you can't, and therefore you're depressed? Are you like that? Again, she doesn't say anything. Finally, after they try to push her to speak, or push her or him to speak for a long time, she begins to speak. And the demigoddess begins speaking to Radharani, and she tells her, my dear Radharani, I was in the court of Parvati, and I heard about your amazing glories, and I heard about how you are the epitome of love, and I had to come down and see you. But you know what? When I came down to see you, I came down when this boy Krishna was calling all of you for the rasa dance. and Krishna called all of you, and you all left home and came, and then he disappeared from you, and I saw the amazing love in separation that you exhibited, and it was amazing, and I realized, yes, what they were saying in the court of Parvati is completely true. You are the greatest symbol of love that could ever exist. And Radharani's like, oh. and then the demigoddess says, well, you know what? I agree, you're the greatest symbol of love. But I do not understand why you run after this Krishna. This Krishna, he's terrible. He disappears from you. I don't understand this. Like, he's not the real deal. You should stay away from him. And then Radharani hears this, and she's like, whoa, this demigoddess is criticizing Krishna. This is heavy stuff. But then what happens when Radharani starts to kind of like preach to the demigoddess, and she begins describing what pure love for Krishna is like. Describes it. There's a whole thing that she describes, and she says one of the things she tells the demigoddess is that if somebody claims to have love for Krishna and talks about it, actually they don't have love for Krishna, because you can't actually describe it and you can't talk about it. So she gives a whole description, a wonderful description, and then Krishna's demigod is like, wow, this is amazing. There's that wonderful pastime. But then there's another pastime that takes place in an area near Varshana. That one time Srimati Radharani's hands, Mother Yashoda put turmeric on Radharani's palms one time. Because Srimati Radharani, as you know, she would go and cook for Krishna every morning. She got a special blessing from Durvasa Muni that whatever she'd cook would be sweeter than nectar, and whoever would have her cooking would never be sick. So therefore Mother Yashoda was like, okay, she's cooking for my Krishna then. So every morning she comes and cooks for Krishna. So one time after she did her cooking service, Mother Yashoda was like thinking, oh, how wonderful it would be if Radharani would become my daughter-in-law. So she took her hands and put turmeric on her hands. And Radharani was a bit puzzled, like, why are you doing this? And Mother Yashoda says, this means that you are engaged to marry my Krishna. And she was like, ooh, this is like serious stuff. So then Radharani and her friends were going down the ground and going back to Varshana. And then reaching Varshana, and then they were her and her friends were discussing that, this is wonderful, but Radharani is way too young for marriage now. No, this is not good. And then Radharani is like, but what do I do with this, Like, my mother will see this, what do I say? So then Lalita and Vishaka say, there's a kund nearby, just wash your hands in it. So she went to the kund and began washing her hands in the kund. And the waters of that lake was blackish like Krishna. So as she was washing her hands and she was looking at this blackish water, she was remembering Krishna. She was becoming absorbed in remembering Krishna. So as she was doing that, she was washing her hands. And as she was washing her hands, she was washing more than just the turmeric. Now she was washing into the water her own love for Krishna, because she was deeply absorbed in Krishna. And before you knew it, the entire lake became golden. And everyone was perplexed by this. Like, wow, look what just happened. And they were like, whoa. Radharani is very special, only she could do that. So they all went away back to Varshana. And after some time, who would come by but Lord Krishna himself? And he's very curious. He's like, I come to this pond all the time. I've never seen it like this before. Like, why is it golden? It's not usually golden. So he's like, I'm very curious. So he comes down the steps and dips his finger into it. And as he dips his finger into it, he becomes completely electrified, overwhelmed by a feeling of great love for himself. He's like, whoa, I haven't felt that before. Crazy. So what he does, he dives into the lake, completely submerged in the lake, and just his peacock feathers dancing at the top like this. And all the animals in Vrindavan are just looking for, like, what happened to our Krishna? And then Krishna at one point just comes out completely and comes onto the shore. And what happened to Krishna? What do you think happened to Krishna? He was no longer black. He was completely gold in color. And he was completely gold, and he was chanting his own names, Krishna, 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 in ecstasy, in separation from himself. Every single animal Vrajavasi that was there was astonished. The trees were astonished. The animals were astonished. Like, what? We've never seen Krishna like that before. And as he danced and called out his own names in those forests around that kund, after some time the effect wore out and he became his normal self again. And that was quite an experience. So to this day, that lake is known as Pili Pokar. Pili means yellow or golden, and Pokar means lake, so it's the golden lake. You can still visit there when you go to Varshnava. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu Ki Jai. Okay, so let's continue. We need to read the purport. We're discussing Leela too much. Okay. So Prabhupada says, why is Radha Kund so exalted? The lake is so exalted because it belongs to Srimati Radharani, who is the most beloved object of Shri Krishna. Among all the gopis, she is the most beloved. Similarly, her lake, Shri Radha Kund, is also described by great sages as the lake that is as dear to Krishna as Radha herself. Indeed, Krishna's love for Radha Kund and Srimati Radharani is the same in all respects. Radha Kund is very, very rarely attained, even by great personalities fully engaged in devotional service, not to speak of ordinary devotees who are only engaged in the practice of Vaidhi Bhakti. It is stated that a devotee will at once develop pure love of Krishna in the wake of the gopis if he once takes a bath in Radha Kund. Srila Rupa Goswami recommends that even if one cannot live permanently on the banks of Radha Kund, he should at least take a bath in the lake as many times as possible. This is a most important item in the execution of devotional service. Sri Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes in this connection that Sri Radha Kund is the most select place for those interested in advancing their devotional service in the wake of the lady friends, Sakhis, and confidential serving maids, Manjaris of Srimati Radharani. Living entities who are eager to return home to the transcendental kingdom of God, Goloka Vrindavan, by means of attaining their spiritual bodies, Siddha Deha, should live at Radha Kund, take shelter of the confidential serving maids of Sri Radha, and under their direction, engage constantly in her service. This is the most exalted method for those engaged in devotional service under the protection of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. In this connection, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes that even great sages and great devotees like Narada and Sanaka do not get an opportunity to come to Radha Kund to take their baths. What then to speak of ordinary devotees? If by great fortune one gets an opportunity to come to Radha Kund and bathe even once, he can develop his transcendental love for Krishna exactly as the gopis did. It is also recommended that one should live on the banks of Radha Kund and should be absorbed in the loving service of the Lord. One should bathe there regularly and give up all material conceptions, taking shelter of Sri Radha and her assistant gopis. If one is thus constantly engaged during his lifetime, after giving up the body, he will return back to Godhead to serve Sri Radha in the same way as he contemplated during his life on the banks of Radha Kund. The conclusion is that to live on the banks of the Radha Kund and to bathe there daily constitute the highest perfection of devotional service. It is a difficult position to attain, even for great sages and devotees like Narada. Thus there is no limit to the glory of Sri Radha Kund. By serving Radha Kund, one can get an opportunity to become an assistant of Srimati Radharani under the eternal guidance of the gopis. Whoa, what a purple, right? This is called like Prabhupada is saying here, we're talking about, what was the exact words he used? He said, the most exalted method of devotional service, which is actually a difficult position to attain. Wow. Oh, amazing. Let's have some discussion going on here. Bathing in Radha Kund. So, what does it mean to bathe in Radha Kund? Srila Rupa Goswami is saying here, if one simply bathes once within those holy waters, one's pure love of Krishna is fully aroused. Yes, Sachikumar Nimadu?
Yes, Prabhu. For some reason, just in the Zoom meeting this morning or this afternoon, I'm just remembering. I think, and maybe you can correct me if I'm not remembering it correctly, but that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur drove into Radhakund in a Rolls Royce and said that I've come to teach you about renunciation. I think because I was something was there in my mind. I was thinking, Radhakund, like you mentioned there, the perfection of devotional service, but also like the perfection of renunciation. And then, this very powerful image is there of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. What is he looking to communicate? And the whole, Srila Prabhupada's kind of book distribution and spreading Krishna consciousness. So that's the other thing that is there. Like, maybe it was saying, I think in one of the expressions there, that if one can't live in the banks of Radhakund, then one can engage in devotional service somewhere else and think. So it occurs as though maybe there's some renunciation that we can perform, and it's not even about giving it. Maybe it's about, like a Rolls Royce or some other thing that we might associate with the opposite of renunciation. So those are a few thoughts there.
Oh, it's very nice, Prabhu, actually. It's really nice. Because here's the thing, interesting thing. Radhakund has an acharya who teaches us how to live in Radhakund. Who knows who it is? It's one of the 6 Goswamis of Vrindavan. He is known to be like the acharya of Radhakund.
I would guess Rupa Goswami, but I don't know.
Goswami. He's actually a follower of Rupa Goswami. Actually, the next slide talks about him, but I'm going to wait and see if you know who I'm talking about. It's actually Raghunath Das Goswami. And Prabhupada was saying in the quote later that Raghunath Das Goswami showed us how one should live in Radhakund. And he was particularly known for his renunciation. He was actually empowered by Lord Chaitanya that was his preaching, to how to be renounced. Of course, we cannot imitate his renunciation because it's very extreme, it's very amazing. But his vows are described to be like lines set in stone, he doesn't change, he's so fixed up like that. But when you mention this image of Bhaktisiddhanta coming into Radhakund in a Rolls Royce and saying, I'm coming to teach you about renunciation, what I gather from that is that what does renunciation mean? It doesn't necessarily just mean you externally give up things. Actually, renunciation means you renounce the mentality of being an enjoyer, because everything around us isn't meant for us anyway. It belongs to Krishna. Therefore, real renunciation is what you call yukta vairagya, right? So anything can be used in Krishna's service, and that's Rupa Goswami's teachings as well. So it appears that's what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was trying to communicate. I've come to teach you about renunciation, but what's real renunciation is that nothing for me but everything for Krishna. So he can use a Rolls Royce in Krishna's service. He would wear these fancy watches, right, as well, right, to do his service. So anything can be used in Krishna's service. So really, one who can reside in Radhakund is actually somebody who's given up the mentality of being an enjoyer, actually fully embrace the identity of being a servant. Yeah, that's how I understand it. Yeah. So coming back to taking a dip into Radhakund. So I'll ask you, dear devotees, has anybody here taken a dip in Radhakund at least once? No? I have once. Only once. Zanda Prabhu,
Yeah.
you have? What?
I took water on my head. I didn't get in. But...
Oh yeah, that's nice. That's good.
Yeah.
But like a proper dip, who like literally went in. Oh, nobody. I went in once. I did it because my seniors told me I could. So once. Pratik Prabhu says once. Yes. Yeah, once. So I'll ask you, Pratik Prabhu, did you achieve love for Krishna yet?
That was my question.
Yeah, me neither. I haven't achieved love for Krishna yet. Maybe I got some blessings. Maybe we got some blessings, but have you achieved Krishna prema yet?
Yeah.
So
I
no. So obviously that would mean that clearly the bath that we are talking about here in this verse is more than just physically bathing. There must be something more to it. So let's see what Srila Prabhupada has to say about bathing in Radhakund. So Prabhupada is talking here. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki Jai. Audio is not so good, but you maybe caught a few words here and there of what he was saying. So basically, he's citing Raghunath Das Goswami as an example of the perfect Radha Kundvasi. So it's basically a matter of consciousness, it's not just external. And in the purport, Prabhupada is saying, should be absorbed in the loving service of the Lord. Loving service of the Lord. Is our service to Krishna loving yet? Most probably not. Probably very mechanical. Loving service of the Lord, and one should bathe there regularly and give up all material conceptions. You have to give up all material conceptions. So again, it's like something not ordinary. Yeah. So Prabhupada, he's quoting a verse from Sadgoswami Ashtakam here. So he's saying that he's offering obeisances to the 6 Goswamis who were engaged in chanting the holy names of Krishna and bowing down in a scheduled measurement. He had a specific number of obeisances that Raghunath Das Goswami would offer. In this way, they utilized their valuable lives in executing these devotional activities, and they conquered over eating and sleeping, and were always meek and humble, enchanted by remembering the transcendental qualities of the Lord. So therefore, should we as followers of Srila Prabhupada take bath in Radha Kund? So some ISKCON history here, dear devotees. So Prabhupada was taking his devotees all over Vrindavan, and eventually he brought them, his Western disciples, to Radha Kund. And Prabhupada said, yes, that's the process, right? You should take a dip in Radha Kund, you should bathe in the waters of Radha Kund. But what happened? You know how all these devotees, they're not trained in the culture of devotion so much. They're very new. And when you see a body of water, what do generally? You jump in and you splash, right? And you swim like anything. But that's what happened. And word went to Prabhupada saying what they were doing in Radha Kund. And Prabhupada wasn't very happy. He was like, you can't behave like that in Radha Kund. It's not proper. But then what he said was, it's not respectful what you're doing. What you shouldn't even put your feet in Radha Kund actually, because Radha Kund is not different from Srimati Radharani. Therefore, Radha Kund is deserving of our utmost respect. So therefore he told them that what you should do is just take a few drops of water and put on our head. That's as good as bathing in Radha Kund. So like that. So technically, yes, we should take a dip. But then he cautioned his disciples, saying a bit how frivolous he got, So then what do we do now after 50 years of ISKCON being here? What do we do? So usually what I found is that different spiritual masters instruct differently. So whatever your spiritual master is telling you to do, you should do that. You should follow that. Some will tell you just put a few drops on your head, just follow that. Some will say it's fine, that's okay as well. But whatever you do, just follow your spiritual master. You find here Prabhupada again, he's talking about this thing, that incident, and he's discussing and saying, how can you swim in Radha Kund? He says, Radha Kund, who will live Radha Kund? One is topmost devotee, and if he mixes with third-class devotee, how he is fit for living in Radha Kund? There is no difference between Radha Kund and Radharani. So how you can jump over Radharani? Radha Kund and Radharani, non-different. How you can enjoy Radha Kund by swimming in it? You cannot touch with your feet even Radha Kund. You can take little water and keep it on the head. That is respectful to Radha Kund. Of course, things are going on like that, but strictly speaking, Radha Kund should be respected as Radharani herself. That is Radha Kund consciousness, highest Radha Kund consciousness. So Prabhupada has a few more words of caution for all of us about residing in Radha Kund and about all things to do with practicing Bhakti in Radha Kund. So it's very sobering what he says, and it's very important for us to understand it. what is the proper mean. So I have the recordings here, so let's play the recording.
You understand? Radha Krishna is very affairs, unless one has or really truly reflection on Krishna. Radha Krishna running affairs is not so easy. Radha Kunda is not so easy. That by force I go to Radha Kunda without a candle. Uporokunada mode haibe aputi, kome hama puja bose churul. Now Tunga Thakur is angry, when I shall understand about Radha Krishna's name. Such liberated devotees are charged. They are angry. Uporokunada mode haibe aputi, kome hama puja. When I shall understand, and they have understood it. Everything. Sometimes they are not right. That is how. That's it. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has given us acidity. Acidity. Abhaktha Karuna Sindhu Katiya Mohan Brahma Dullabh mein Nitai Paridhan. That is special verse. It is not easy. Gaunam Jagmanavan Divyavana. Those things is very easy. It's very serious. Therefore, we have to go step by step. That is not understand. Radhe Radhe, the aim should be how to shine. Rupaguna, Gurunatha, and Bhaktasan. You want to stay with Lord, there is no other thing. And now we ask that soon. This is the purpose.
Prabhupada ki jai. So yes, dear devotees, Prabhupada is being very serious here. He doesn't want us to take Radha Kund cheaply. He doesn't want us to take Srimati Radharani cheaply at all, you know. And there's a room conversation with Srila Prabhupada about nectar of instruction. Like one devotee saying, Prabhupada, Prabhupada is saying that, people read nectar of instruction, they say, oh look, Rupa Goswami mentions Radha Kund here. But then Prabhupada says, well, there's so many verses before these verses about Radha Kund, right? First verse is Vacho Vegam, Manasa Krodha Vegam. So if you're going to speak about Radha Kund, make sure you get those things get those things sorted out first as well, right? If you're going to take, you have to take the whole package, not just one thing and ignore the other, you know. He says, that you're manipulated by the Udara Vegam, Upashta Vegam. The first day's test, Itan Veganyo Vishaheta Dira, you become sober. It doesn't bother you anymore. Then for this person has Radha Kund, you know. So yeah, so we should take things step by step. So Rupa Goswami is talking about how we can serve Sri Radha Kund. How for us, our little sadhakas on the path of devotional service, how can we serve Sri Radha Kund? Any voice, how do you think you can serve Radha Kund? What do you think?
Going there and chanting.
Yeah, you can go there and chant japa when you go on parikram. My spiritual master has a japa sangha there sometimes with devotees. Yeah, very nice. Yes, Achikumani, my Prabhu?
Maybe Prabhu, maybe I'm a little biased, but I think I remember devotees saying that Prabhupada, his Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was walking, I think the devotees say, on the banks of Radha Kund, and then he commented that actually all this quarreling about the new temple, who wants this room, he said, I'd rather sell the temple and distribute books.
Prabhu, you know what? You've just summarized the rest of my presentation. You know my heart, Prabhu. So I was going to come to that point actually. Eventually. But yes, you're very right. Lisa Mataji says through devotional service, yes. By embracing the process of bhakti, yes, because Srimati Radharani is the presiding deity of bhakti. We can teach nectar of instruction, like we're doing here, which shows us the pathway to Radha Kund in a proper way, as Prabhupada has taught us. We can glorify Radha Kund. We can do that. But based on what based on what Tachikumar Nimai Prabhu just said, I'll be just trying to elaborate on that a little bit more. Srila Prabhupada is we all known as Prabhupada Anugas, followers of Srila Prabhupada. And Srila Prabhupada is for us the ultimate Rupanuga. He followed he took Rupa Goswami's teachings to the West and gave it to all of us. So we have to meditate. We can meditate upon how did he serve Radha Kund? What did he do to serve Radha Kund? And of course, as Prabhu was mentioning, Prabhupada on the banks of Radha Kund in November 1935 met his spiritual master. You can find this in the Prabhupada Lilamrita. So I'll read from it, from this particular chapter. So the author says, deeply concerned, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said to Abhay, Agun Jwalbe, there will be fire. One day there will be fire in the Calcutta Gaudiya Math, and that fire of party interests will spread and destroy. That was quite prophetic. Abhay heard but did not know what to make of it. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta had fought so long and boldly to establish that anyone of any birth could be elevated to become a Brahmana, a sannyasi, or a Vaishnava. But if his followers became contaminated by little wealth and a desire for prestige, thereby showing themselves to be still low-class men despite their training and purification, then his mission would be disrupted. If in the name of religion they became attached to ease, position, and prestige, it could only mean that they had failed to grasp the teachings of their spiritual master. Srila Prabhupada. He was lamenting that these men are simply after the stones and bricks of the building. He condemned. He was very, very sorry. When you were living in a rented house, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said, if we could collect 200 or 300 rupees, we were living very nicely at Ultaganga. We were happier there. But since we have been given this marble palace in Bagh Bazaar, there is friction between our men. Who will occupy this room? Who will occupy that room? Who will be the proprietor of this room? Everyone is planning in different ways. It would be better to take the marble from the walls and secure money. If I could do this and print books, that would be better. Abhay felt his spiritual master speaking to him in urgency, as if asking him for help or warning him to avert a disaster. But what could he do? Srila Bhaktisiddhanta then said directly to Abhay, Amar icha chila kichu bai karan. I had a desire to print some books. If you ever get money, print books. Standing by Radha Kund and beholding his spiritual master, Abhay felt the words deeply enter his own life. If you ever get money, print books. So Prabhupada received this very important instruction on the banks of Radha Kund. And based on this instruction, the whole of ISKCON was formed. So many books Srila Prabhupada translated and millions of books distributed from then until now. And as a result, so many hundreds and thousands of people from all nationalities and walks of life have come to Radha Kund and have learnt about the glories of Radha Kund. So Prabhupada's position as a servant of Radha Kund is incredibly unique. It is incredibly unique. In other words, you could say that Prabhupada's ISKCON movement was born from the waters of Radha Kund. Right? Because that's where it all started. How wonderful that is. And we are all still serving Prabhupada's mission. So if this mission is Prabhupada's service to Radha Kund, and if we wholeheartedly take on the service to serve his mission, we're also serving Radha Kund. It's already 1:30, but please allow me to share one more beautiful story. There's one Mataji, and I don't remember her name, but she was a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and she was a book distributor. And she was living in Vrindavan, in Vraja, for a while. And then she got inspired after some time to reside in Radha Kund, and do her bhajan there, chant her rounds there, which a lot of people do. And she was doing that. for a while in Radhakund. And then she had this dream. So she gave up her service of book distribution and went to Radhakund. She had this dream where Srila Prabhupada came to her dream and took her by the hand and took her into Radhakund. And they went deep into Radhakund and deep into Radhakund, and they found in Radhakund all of Prabhupada's books. And the one side there was all of Prabhupada's books, and then in front of all of Prabhupada's books, Prabhupada was showing her, look at all of these conditioned souls. Who is going to save them? You know, and Prabhupada feelingly tell her, who's going to save them? That's what happened in Radhakund, you know. And once she woke up, she realized, oh my God, I need to go back to book distribution. So then she went back to distribute books. She went back to distributing books. So yes, dear devotees, we are all part of this legacy of this line, wonderful line of, well, the legacy of Srila Prabhupada is his movement. And this legacy is born from Radhakund, you know, and it's forever. And so far, this movement, Prabhupada's legacy, is still saving so many conditioned souls and bringing them bringing them properly and systematically to the shelter of Radhakund. How amazing, right? Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Radha Nandanishwara ki jai. Srila Rupa Goswami ki jai. Nitai Gopamrali. Hari Hari Bol. So dear devotees, thank you so much for your association, and hope it was pleasing to all of you. And these all 5 weeks, I think it's 5 weeks. I think Prabhu has a question. Yes, Prabhu?
Yeah, a little question, or probably. So when I was having the same question about dipping in the Radhakund, and you really explained the answer, Prabhu. Thank you for that. But if your spiritual master allows you, like my spiritual master allowed me and some devotees to go and have a dip, so I just felt like that. Okay, if not now, but I'll get someday the whole benefit, right? So it's still benefiting, right? So to take a dip and all the, like, it's like chanting. I feel like it's chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, which can actually deliver you just one Maha Mantra.
Yeah.
But still we do it. So it's just like a powerful
I
blessing.
understand it in this way. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Ye Yatamam Prapadete Tam Satheva Bhajamiham. According to the level of your surrender, I reciprocate accordingly. So to the degree our consciousness is correct when taking a dip in Radhakund, to that degree, we will receive a certain type of reciprocation.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Prabhu. So, yeah, so here ends our journey, dear devotees. We made it to Radhakund. So, please forgive me if there were any mistakes or shortcomings in these presentations, in these discussions. If there's any mistakes, it's definitely my own, for sure. And if there's anything that was good in what I said, it was definitely all because of from all my exalted teachers who I've learned from, and all the credit goes to them. But I'm happy to have been able to be an instrument for these 3 weeks. And if you are pleased or happy, please bless me that I can become a worthy servant of my guru and of the parampara, you know, and one day become worthy of Prabhupada, of being called, worthy of being called as somebody who was part of Prabhupada's movement. Jai Shri Prabhupada ki, Jai Anantakoti Vaishnavinda ki, Jai Nitai Gopalandi, Hari Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.